Sorry, I was enabling that
Oh
conversation.
no, but I'm a submarine. I go down fast.
No, that's cool.
We
That's
go
cool.
deep quick.
Yeah.
So we kind of have started. But
Okay.
to start us off,
Yes.
I'll go a long way round, like sort of getting you to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've known of you
Yeah.
for actually a really long time.
Right. Okay.
Good and bad.
Oh, mate, I'm a loose goose.
Loose goose. Love it.
Yeah.
I've known you. I'm a big Exeter Chiefs fan, so I've known you
Right.
since like Chiefs.
Right. Okay.
And then
Yeah. When Chiefs though.
yeah. There's a few different chapters
I'm
there.
a county grounder, so I'm right back when we were absolute savages.
Well, I'm lucky enough to say that I did go and watch 2 games at the county ground.
Yes.
But I barely remember them. I was that young.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm
That
calling
makes me feel really
I'm calling
great.
myself a Chiefs fan. So I've known you from like the Chiefs stuff.
Yes.
And then I knew you as like the Chiefs host stuff.
Yes.
And now I kind of know you as Notworking Networking.
Yes.
What would you say you like do now?
It's a good question. I don't know. It's one of the things because all the people on LinkedIn are like, you've got to be really succinct in what you do. And I'm like, I don't really know.
Because you do a lot, don't you?
I sort of do, yeah.
Yeah.
I've probably got to get better at understanding what I am, what I do.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm a universal communicator. There you go.
Oh,
I can, at
nice.
all levels, I can sort of get on with people. I'm a dynamic recognizer, so I can go into a room and pick the right people to talk to. And then I'm a bit of a facilitator. I try and get people together.
It's nice
that encourages all sorts of positive outcomes. It's pretty much the head and tail of it. But ultimately, I'm just trying to facilitate an enjoyable life. I think it's the head and tail of it. And it's sort of working that way. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, as we go, I'll probably become more self-aware because I don't really think about what I do.
Well, that's actually like quite a big purpose of the podcast, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
it's quite a big like reflection session.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're there already. Go into like a bit of detail about what you're actually doing with like you obviously got your bottle there.
Yeah,
Hold
really
that up for
refreshing.
everyone.
The fluid from that bottle is really refreshing. More
you
so
got-
than most bottles.
You got like the building brands, haven't you? And you got lots of little different.
I've got yeah.
Bits going on.
So if you want to be wanky about it, I've got a portfolio career.
Yeah.
So I've got a few different things I do. So I work with my wife, and we really enjoy being together. Like the A team, so we've got a little marketing company, and we've got 6 clients on retainer that we do all sorts for. So that can go from branding to building their website to working on their marketing proposition. I've just been dialing for a company, so they wanted to do some outreach. So I did some outreach for them for a couple of months.
Oh, really?
So we'll do everything and anything. We bespoke find who we want to work with, and sort of say we'd really like to work with you. So we do that. Got Notworking Networking, which came about 6 years ago now, I think. And I can tell you, well, I'll list what we do. So we've got Notworking Networking, that morphed into the Notty Business Awards. And then I've got Building Brands, where I'm a third of the Building Brands team. And then I host events, MC, do bits and bobs. So I've got an evening with Rocky Clark at Brixton Rugby Club in a couple of weeks. I'm doing a fundraiser for Branch House. I'm doing my first where I'm the guest speaker for bloody hell, it's a golf club somewhere. Well, I'm doing a 40-minute set where I'm talking about me and my career, which normally I host, but I'm actually doing that.
Yeah.
I've got
There's
the
a
Mitchell
bit of
Moore's
practice
charity.
for that.
Oh
then,
yeah,
I suppose.
got the Mitchell Moore's charity run down the line. Girling Jones golf day. So I do all sorts of bits and bobs. I pull it together.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different things that I'm involved in that sort of bring revenue into the household.
Yeah. Because I do see you in a lot of different places doing a lot of different things.
Yes.
So that's why I sort of try and pull it all together. Nice little explanation at the start of what you did, but then you've actually got loads of different bits and bobs that you do. So throughout the
I think the thing is most of the things, most of the time I'm enjoying them.
Yeah.
And then underpinning that is probably convincing people to spend money.
Yeah.
I am a salesman. When I was at the Chiefs and I was finishing my playing career, Tony Rowe, the chief exec, made me do some psychometric tests, and he said, "You've got a salesman's hook, Chris." That's my Tony Rowe impression. So I'm sort of naturally a salesman.
Do you find that you go out to find these events that you work at, or do people come to you?
People, a bit of both. So I'm on the books of 360 speakers and Evolved Talent, and then people invariably come to me as well and say, "Chris, we've got this event coming off. Would you host it? Would you do this with it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I would." But it all stems from when I was at the rugby club and I was hosting there, and people wanted me to do stuff, and then I got excited because I started to give me a room of 600 people that love rugby, and I will entertain them. It's good fun. But I wanted to challenge myself to do more. So I was very fortunate. Drew Ellis took a punt on me with the Light Minds Festival. So I hosted that for 4 years, and that was phenomenal. Because I was meeting like really inspiring people, and I was hosting it and bringing them on stage, and they were all coming to me going, I do lots of conferences and you've made it really good fun and really entertaining. I'm like, wow, this is cool. And then that obviously morphed into building brands. And building brands, Dave Briggs had put it together. But I, with my history in sort of adding commercial value to stuff, I was like, Dave, we could actually turn this into more of a beast. And that's what happened with building brands. And I came in 50-50. And then as we expanded into Bristol, we brought John Payne into the mix. Champagne John Payne, he's a great bloke.
I like that nickname.
That's cool. Champagne John Payne. Every time we see him, that's what you've got to say. So we brought Champers in so we could try and work into the Bristol market. And again, I enjoy being amongst people who really inspire me or show me things that I didn't know or make me learn more. I find that really cool. And
so we'll get into all of that stuff. Let's go with the journey of where it all started. Yeah. Because am I right to say you've got like 2 sagas in your life, like the rugby part and then sort of what you've done post rugby?
Yeah, totally.
Does it feel like that for you?
Well, it all sort of moves along. It evolves as you go. But I was... Well, I'm from the north. Well, first and foremost, I've always had a bit of detachment because I was born in the northeast. Yeah. Mum and dad were both studying at Durham Uni, qualified as teachers, and then I was the second child. And mum and dad, my mum wanted to be moved back to the Wirral where her family was, so they could have a bit of help raising my brother and I. So I was born in the northeast, but raised in the northwest. So when people say where you're from, well, I'm a Mackem by birth, but I'm northwestern raised. Yeah. And my granddad put me in Everton kit as a young man. Oh. Yeah, what a bastard. But he was on Everton's book, so I was a goalkeeper. I was Neville Southall as a kid. Yeah. And then genetics sort of kicked in and I became massive. So all I wanted to do was play football. And then at about 11, I picked up rugby and I was absolutely rubbish. Yeah. Genuinely rubbish for 3 years. Yeah. And my uncle captained the north of England. My dad was a pivotal influence upon me. He lost his eye when he was 24. So a blossoming rugby career was cut short. And I think he didn't want me to do rugby unless I wanted to do rugby. So he left me for a few years. And then when it became apparent I wanted to play rugby, he started to help and push me and drive me. And I needed that.
How did you know you wanted to be a professional rugby player?
I didn't want to be a professional rugby player. I just wanted to be a rugby player. Okay. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I still don't know what. I just want, like, my underlying driver is just to be happy. But rugby became professional when I was 16, I think. So then it was like, I want to be a rugby player. Yeah. And I was training twice a week, and my dad introduced me to a boy, Christian Savramuto, who played for Ireland. He said, how often do you train? Or twice a week. Well, you need to train twice a day. And it was my blinkers were sort of pulled off, and I realized how much I needed to do and what I needed to sacrifice. And what's been great for me is as I've got older and I've seen guys that went on and did better than me, that sacrificed more or tried more or did more. I think, well, I'm at peace with because I was a journeyman. You know, I was big and strong and I tried hard. I didn't like to lose, but I wasn't willing to push that extra bit. Yeah. I always had enjoyment underpinning what I did. But I realized I wanted to be a rugby player. And at my grammar school, we did our leavers thing, and I said, look out for Benno, the rugby player. That was my driver. Yeah. And when I was 16, and I was looking to do, no, in fact, I was 17, wasn't it? I was looking at my university, and my form teacher, Mr. Leffley, he said, because I don't know what you were like at school, it was careers teachers, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I want to be a rugby player.
Yeah, nobody has a clue, do they?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. He said, well, what else do you want to do? I said, well, I need to be educated, because my parents had sort of set this pathway of what I was going to be. Had to go to university. And Mr. Leffley said, well, if you do a philosophy degree, 50% of philosophy graduates have non-specific graduate employment. So you prove you've got critical thought, and people will sort of train you into what you want to do. So if you want to be an engineer, go and do an engineering degree. You want to be a chemist, go and do a chemistry degree, whatever it may be. Well, I just wanted to be educated. So philosophy was the course for me. Yeah. No idea why, I just went for it.
So you didn't have any like prior interest in?
Well, I'd done law, theatre studies and history A-levels. So I was sort of leaning towards that way. I did enjoy history, and then philosophy, sort of history of thought, really. But I had it was ace, because philosophy, your course was like 3 hours, 4 hours of lectures, and then a couple of seminars around it. So you hardly had any time with your tutors, but they'd be like, here's Descartes' meditations on philosophy. let's read that and then we'll talk about it next week. So I was like, sound, which gave me loads of time to train. And at that time, rugby was starting to happen for me. So it fit absolutely perfectly. I was just a bit of a weirdo because I was weirdo whichever way, because in the philosophy group, it was tie-dye and everyone was like, thinking really big thoughts. And then in the rugby, it was all tracksuits and training hard. So in the philosophy, I didn't quite fit in because I was in my tracksuit doing press-ups in seminars. And then with the rugby lot, they're all like protein shakes and what have you. And I'm like, mate, what about the concept of the universe and the infinite?
Yeah.
How about this anomaly? Yeah, here's one. So we did space and time and you're contemplating the infinite causes all sorts of trouble because you can have a library where there's 2 red books, 1 green book, 2 red books, 1 green book forever. But there's the same number of green books as red books because it's infinite. And it starts going on. That doesn't compute.
God, big questions, isn't it?
You can have stuff like that. And you get into it and it cabbages your brain a bit. So I've always thought a bit differently. I've always been a bit peculiar.
How's that helped you? Has that, like, I think I would like to do a philosophy degree.
Yeah.
I won't, but like, I love the thought behind it.
But it's just something, because some of the courses do your head in. Logic just does your head in.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the ancient Greeks, Hellenistic philosophy. Love that. And obviously Stoicism's now pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
it's
I was
big
reading
now, isn't it?
Yeah, but I was reading Marcus Aurelius 25 years ago.
Really?
And going, sort of get this. And the principles worked really well in the sporting environment.
Yeah,
so there was a nice crossover into, you've got to sacrifice to succeed and what have you.
Yeah.
How do you think it set you up to not really fit in to either bracket that you were in and amongst in that time?
Well, I've always been a bit peculiar. My wife now, she calls me Spectrum Boy. Because I'm just sort of, things have to be as things have to be. I don't know, it's just my brain chemistry.
Have you always been like that sort of thing? Or
I've always been non-conformist.
Okay.
I've always been non-conformist. And that was one of the big things that showed up on my psychometric testing when I was getting the job at Chiefs. Like, I high extrovert, low conformity.
Yeah.
So I like to show off and I don't like to be told what to do. And people that manage me well will not stand in front of me. They'll stand behind me and whisper. Yeah. So, my wife's brilliant. She'd be like, be a good idea if we did this. I'm like, do you know, this would be a good idea.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you said you did your A-levels as well. You did theatre studies, history.
Performance,
history, and what was the other one?
Law, theatre studies, and
history. Not 3 subjects that go all that well together, are they really? Or like usually seen together?
But it was just sort of being educated. I wanted to be educated, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just needed to get educated.
Yeah.
It was always the driver from my perspective.
Yeah, but like those 3 things like actually do suit your personality quite well.
Well, law, I became a parent. I didn't want to do law.
No.
Two of my best mates from school days are now like top class litigators, and they're so dry. But they love being with me because I just wind them up.
But like the theatre side of things, you know, like rugby, that's obviously helped. I imagine has sort of shaped your personality
to an extent. Yeah,
like going forward with things. Now you can either look back on it or look forward, can't you? But obviously the theatre probably shaped you moving forward.
Yeah,
and now it just looks like you've done an awful lot around that.
I think so.
Yeah. So you were going into rugby at a time where it was like really transitioning, weren't you, with the professional? You were right on the cusp.
But this is the thing, I love rugby union. I absolutely adore rugby union. And as a young man, my dad was playing veterans rugby, and I was raised in a rugby club. So on a weekend, he'd rock up at Caldy Rugby Club. Is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's one of the best rugby clubs in the world. It's on the Dee Estuary. It's gone Thurston National Park behind it. So you've got this big national park behind it. It's on the bank. You're overlooking the Dee Estuary. It's glorious. It's got 1, 2, 3 pitches. Then the school, Caldy Grammar's got a couple of pitches over the road. And my dad used to drive up the drive, kick me out and say, right, I'll see you at 6 o'clock, I'm going to go and play. And you'd find all the other orphan kids and you'd knock about.
You'd be your mates,
and you're safe. And there's nowhere you're going to go. You'd knock about on Thurston Hill, or you'd kick a ball around, you'd watch your dad play.
Yeah.
Big bats after, and it was lovely. It was idyllic.
Is that where you're like rugby?
That's where I started to fall in love with just the culture of rugby union as a bigger thing, and there's drinking games and everyone's having a crack, and I was like, I really enjoyed this, and I wanted to be, and even now I'm still involved at the lowest level of rugby union with a club called South Molton.
Are you? Oh, nice.
I'm casual. I'm a casual coach, but I just really enjoy the guys that play because they love playing.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it, but what happened with me in rugby was, genetically, I'm massive, and I started to get quite good after a period of time. And so Caldy Rugby Club wasn't quite good enough for me at the time, so I moved to a club called New Brighton. Mm-hmm. And I was very fortunate as a 17-year-old at New Brighton that they had, they were like a graveyard for very good rugby players. So guys from at the time Waterloo, which was a very good club, a lot of their old boys went there. And then I was blessed that my idol, this bloke Wade Dooley, who played for Preston Grasshoppers, England, British Lion, he was 40 years old. He went to New Brighton because this was just as money started to come into the game, so they're paying a bit of money. So 40-year-old Wade Dooley, 6'8", 22 stone, British Lion.
Wow.
And I'm 17-year-old Chris Bentley. And Wade Dooley, my idol, turned up. So I'm training with Wade. Yeah. And I'm seeing the standards that these guys set. And it was just like, wow, I need to train harder. I need to be better.
Yeah.
And I made, it was still a social club because we were at level 4. But I made decisions about how I was going to live, how I was going to conduct myself so I'd be a bit better. And I didn't quite succeed at New Brighton, truth be told, 17 to 19, because they had Wade Dooley, Sean Gallagher, Nick Allett. They had these proper, like, late 30s hard men rugby players that were all in my position. I only played about 20 games, but there was an opportunity to move to Orrell in Allied Dunbar Premiership 2, the second division of English rugby. And they called me up and said, would you come and trial? I was like, yes, I will. So I went to Orrell and managed to land into the Premiership as a 19-year-old. And I was the youngest second row to ever play for Orrell. And I've actually
Where's
played,
Orrell?
Orrell's in the northwest of England. It's by Wigan.
Yeah.
It's
So you're saying all these like big names.
Yeah.
And I'm quite a rugby nose. I've never heard of any of them.
Oh, well,
like Coldie, I know they're like they're
Coldie were terrible when I was there.
Yeah.
And they've moved up through the leagues.
Yeah.
New Brighton were a big team in the 70s.
Never heard of them.
Fallen on bad times. Orrell missed out on winning the Premiership in like 1995 by next to nothing.
Really?
So their Dowie Morris played for them. Well, I mean, the names I'll list you won't know, but big northern team.
Right.
So I'd gone to Orrell and they'd gone for it, missed out on making the top league, winning the top league, and they'd fallen on hard times. So they'd gone to the second division and they had stalwarts that loved the club and young lads that were ambitious.
Yeah.
And I was a group of young lads that came through. And at 21, I think I was 21, they made me captain.
Cool.
In Allied Dunbar Premiership 2, second division of English rugby. We got relegated.
Good first year.
So that was a bit crap. And at the time, I was sitting my finals. I was going to sit my finals in New Zealand.
Okay.
So Massey University had said I could do my finals over there. I had an opportunity to go and play for a club in New Zealand, and said to Orrell, thanks very much, I'm off. Been a great couple of years, but I'm going to go and play in New Zealand. And it might go. Sorry, I switch them all over the show. So if you have to pull me back, So I was over in New Zealand playing for a Polynesian club, Oriental Rongasai. I was the only white guy in first grade. So
really?
It was all Tongans, Samoans, Maoris, and Fijians.
Pretty hard then.
Oh mate, it was ace. And for me, culture shock.
Yeah.
So it was my first experience of culture shock, where this Polynesian society was leading. I was working as a labourer in the week. I was living with the head coach in this amazing house in the middle of Wellington, overlooking Oriental Bay, and I had a whale of a time.
Yeah. Have you got any cool stories you could share?
Anyone that you're allowed to share?
Yeah.
Well, so the big thing was I was labouring, I was earning money, but I was living with a bloke called Ellis Meachin, who was a superstar. And Ellis was looking after me in his house, sorting out the food and lodgings and what have you. And he didn't really want any money from me because I was playing for the team. And so I was getting $400 a week as a labourer. And then we'd go out on the weekend and I was like everyone's best mate because like drinks are on me.
Yeah.
And because we were a Polynesian club, like all the bouncers were cousins of our players. So you go to a nightclub and there'd be this massive Tongan dude. And he'd be like, oh, that's my cousin. It's like, oh, sound. And is that it? So there'd be a big queue and we'd just walk up and go, is that us? Yeah, we're in. And drinking Jack Daniels and Coke with the lads having a crack. Yeah. But the stories I'm not going to share.
I'm not.
But I had a cracking experience. Got picked to play for Wellington under-21s over in New Zealand. And in our team, we had Rodney Suialo, who became an All Black. Jerry Collins became an All Black. Tim Fairbrother became an All Black. Ross Filippo became an All Black.
Jeez, some
and
big old names then.
Yeah, and I got homesick.
Did you?
Got homesick genuinely. I was a young kid. When you're in New Zealand, you are a day and a half from home.
So detached, aren't you?
It's still very isolated, isn't it?
Yeah,
I imagine even back then without technology.
I was still a bit. Yeah, well, yeah. There's no mobile phones then, and I was writing letters.
Really?
I was writing letters home.
Yeah,
and I got a bit homesick. So, and Orrell rang me up and said, "We've just been bought by Wigan Rugby League. We're really making a go of it. We'd want you to come back."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I've heard all this before." And they said, "Look, we'll sort you a house, a car,
and they actually did.
Decent salary." I was like, "All right, I'm coming back." So, there was the offer from Wigan, and there was the fact that I was a bit homesick. So I left.
Yeah.
When did
you feel like you actually made it in rugby? You know,
I never really made it. I was.
Do you feel like that? Do you?
Well, making it would have been playing internationally for England.
That's your making it, though.
I think for my making it is being at the peak of the game.
Okay.
I think I made a living from rugby for 13 years, so I didn't do anything else, just played rugby. So I was a professional rugby player, but so if we take it in isolation, I've gone from Coley up to New Brighton up to Orrell. I've gone across and out of this experience in New Zealand. I've come back to Orrell. Got picked for England under 21s. Yeah. So I've played with David Flatman, Ben Cohen, Ben Johnson. Who else did we have? Steve Thompson, World Cup winner. So we had, it was a decent team again.
Some big names out.
But I didn't really get picked for 21s. Truth be told, they were touring Argentina, and Steve Borthwick, the now England coach, had signed for Bath. So he said, I'm not going to go on this tour. Alex Brown, who's the chief exec of Gloucester, hurt his shoulder. So I was like third cab on the rank, got the call. You can't to this Argentina tour. Cool. Yeah, I've still gone. I've got my 21s cap, but I went out and I was a bit out of place. But I'd sort of seen what it was and what was needed to be there, and I was an absolute head the ball on that tour. I was completely stupid, but got my cap against Wales, played against Argentina, and thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But went back to Orrell and was doing well. I played more games for Orrell than I did for Exeter, as it was. Yeah.
Oh right.
So I'm moving up the rank, and Orrell, Wigan Rugby League have bought the club. They brought all the Wigan Rugby League structures in place. So we've got a whole back line outside our 9, our Rugby League boys. So we had Phil Jones was Wigan, Wade Kelly was Brisbane Broncos, Gary Connolly, Great Britain Rugby League, Andy Craig was on one wing and ended up playing for Scotland. Wes Davis, who's Billy Boston's grandson, on the other wing, and Rich Welding at fullback, all Rugby League players. Our forward pack, we had Tonga Leotoa, we shipped over from Australia. We had Neil McCarthy, who was England hooker, Steve Barretto, Irishman from Leinster, myself. It was Adam Jackson, who played for Grenoble, Nick Easter played for England, Ben Lewitt, and it was, bloody hell, it'll come to me in a minute, but this was sort of this team. And Wigan Rugby League put their pay structure into a 3rd division English team. So we were all getting loads of money after a whale of a time. I'm like 21, 22 years of age, in a house with a car, all paid for. And I was like, we're going places. And we won Division 3 at a canter. And we were young and crazy, all getting paid money, and we were like, how loose could we be? So we'd be going out.
At that time, pretty loose.
We were going out nights before a game, getting absolutely. There was one occasion. So I was living with Tonga Leotoa, and we were playing Preston Grasshoppers the next day, and Trevor Leota, who played for Wasps, he phoned up Tong and said, we're playing Sale this weekend. I'm in the hotel. Can I come to yours? So he came to our house. And I'm sort of, at the time, I was relatively versed in Polynesian culture because I'd had my time in New Zealand. So I'm getting on with the Cuzzy Bros, and I'm speaking. Brew, what's happening, Brew? No, it wasn't Carver. We didn't do the Carver. I've done Carver, but they got Jack Daniels out.
Nice.
So Tonga and Trevor Leota did a bottle of Jack Daniels, listening to love songs, and we just sat talking.
Listening to love songs.
Mate, Polynesian boys love their love songs.
Do they?
Oh, Jen, we're listening to Tonga got me into love songs because he was 24 stone, like massive. But just love songs, like an absolute teddy bear. We all called him Teddy Ruxpin. Can I be your friend? Jesus thing. And anyway, we went the next day and we played Preston Grasshoppers, and we got the record result for Orrell, beating like 105-10 or something. We absolutely battered them. And Trevor Leota went to play for Wasps against Sale, and the headline was Leota Gaff cost Sale game.
No,
but he drunk like a bottle of Jack Daniels the night before. It's a true story. But anyway, I'm starting to see like the standards right, and we move into the 2nd division. And our first year we finished 4th. The next year we finished 2nd. And in that 2nd year, midway, right at the beginning of the season, gone up for a line out, and I've come down. It's a warm up before a game. I've gone up for a line out, come down, cut my boot in the sock of one of my mates. I've gone down. I've shattered my ankle. Tib fib broke.
Oh dear.
And injury was a 4-month injury. While I was injured, we signed Dan Cook and a Peter Palapoy, 2 second rowers. So I'm like, oh, bloody hell. Like, well, 1, I'm obviously important, and 2, I'm also not that important because they've signed 2 players to cover for me. And this was the first time I realised I was a commodity in rugby union. So I've moved up the ranks, and the club I'm at were doing well. And we finished 2nd in the division that year. But I went and saw Maurice Lindsay, the chairman of Rugby League, of Wigan Rugby League, who was our chairman. I said, look, Maurice, really enjoying it. I'm having a great time. And he was like, yeah, we think you're great. You're doing well. But we're not supporting the club next year. We're pulling all our money out. And I'm telling you in privacy, don't tell any of the other players, but if you want to leave now, we will release you from your contract.
Oh, really?
So I spoke to my agent.
Went and told all your mates.
I didn't tell the guys. I just went. All the lads were a bit upset at me because I left.
Yeah.
So I've been do or die
you took
oral.
the hit. Yeah.
And I spoke to my agent and said, look, there's an opportunity in Biarritz in a couple of weeks' time. And I'd rehabbed my ankle. So my ankle's fixed by now.
They're a big team back then as well.
Yeah. He said, well, they're European quarterfinalists.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There's an opportunity in Biarritz, but you've got to go next week. Jerome Thion, the French second row, has ruptured his Achilles. They need a second row. And I didn't know anything about it. Like really wet behind the ears. Like, well, I'm not going to get back in at Oral. We've got OP and Dan Cook in the team. And they're winning most weeks. And it was like the January. It's like, oh, got to Biarritz. So said goodbye to everyone. And within a week, I was gone. Left my house, packed, cut the bags, moved to Biarritz, full board in a hotel. And had my second mega culture shock because they're different in the southwest of France.
Oh, I love it in Biarritz.
I
was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of my favourite spots.
I
must have loved it down there.
I got out there and I'd been institutionalised into Wigan Rugby League's way of training.
Yeah.
So train hard.
They were just whipping it about, were they?
No, well, I got out to Biarritz at the time. Patrice Legisque was the coach. And they sort of saw me. They did a medical on my ankle, so it was good to go. And culturally, they were still picking up professionalism.
Really?
Like genuinely, they were. 2004 game's been pro for about eight or so years, but they were still getting their heads around it. So musculation, like going in the gym, was not a thing. Whereas so I'm in the gym, like bench pressing heavy, squatting heavy, doing big Olympic lifts. And David Cousinet, the second row, there was one occasion I put 120 kilos on and I'm like repping it out. And Cousinet saw me do it, walked in, stripped the weights off the bar, and then looked at me and laughed and was like, like lifting next to nothing. And then we had Jean-Michel Gonzalez, the French hooker, who was like this little box. And he used to come in and go, this is your training. Here is my training. They had a coffee machine in the gym. And he'd have like
just
a little
espresso.
He'd have an espresso. He was, like Triple G, that's what he did. And
I love that about the French.
Oh, mate, it was, and then training, all the training was chilled. Like we didn't train hard at all. And first training session, I ran straight over a second row, like Olivier Naro, like big fend, kicked him as I ran over him, like And all the boys were like, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah,
Jen, what are you doing? They're all calming me down. And our forwards coach, Alan Paco, quite liked me because I was a traditional English forward, like aggressive and trying to do the do. So I got a start against Perpignan. Nice. No, I didn't. I got a start against Montpellier. Started against Montpellier. And then the following week, I was on the bench against Perpignan. And we were playing Perpignan, and Hervé Marne, one of the second rows, went down injured after about 20 minutes. So I'm like, tracksuit off, ready to go. And Paco comes up to us, no, it's not. No, Martley Evermon was assistant coach. It's not you. We're going to put Satelli Poletu on. And Satelli was a 6'4" French Polynesian, 130 kilo prop.
Wow.
His nickname was the anaesthetist because he put men to sleep. But they put a prop on ahead of me, and I realised that was it. Like I obviously my face hadn't fit or something. Whatever it was, I wasn't quite the man for Biarritz.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my experience over here. And I went out there. Went out there as 116 kilos. I came back at 135.
Cheese and wine.
Oh, mate,
croissants.
I was full board. I was full board in a hotel. Right, so this is what I'm talking about. The guys that were better than me would have made the decision. Well, I've got 3 months. I'm going to train like a loon. I was like, well, I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
So I was next door to a boulangerie, and every morning they were baking chocolatines for me. So I'd walk in and go, this is pour toi, Chris. I was like, brilliant. So I had 2 chocolatines for breakfast. I was having steak frite for lunch, foie gras for fun.
Nice.
Like I was having a whale of a time.
Yeah.
Not really thinking about the consequence of being just a bon vivant.
Yeah. Let's move on to Chiefs then.
Yeah. Well, that's how Chiefs came about.
Yeah.
So
were you not really like a Southwest person before any of that? Was it literally
my experience of Chiefs prior to Chiefs was playing against them with Oral.
Okay.
And in my first, I had 5 seasons with Oral. My first 3 seasons with Oral, Exeter would batter us.
Really?
Yeah, they'd absolutely batter us. We had one game with Oral where we played a midweek cup game at the county ground, and it was a Wednesday night, so we drove down on the day of the game. They kicked off, and Alex Bennett, or 6, caught the ball, dropped it into touch on the 5-yard line, Exeter won the line out, skittled us over. We were 7-0 down after 1 minute of rugby. We're all like, bloody hell, that's going to be a tough afternoon, this. And they battered us like 50 odd to 10.
Yeah.
But my abiding memory was Chiefs. Was if you fought with one of them, you fought with all of them. And,
really?
And going back in time, my dad lost his eye when he was a young man. It was a football hooligan punched him in the face with a dart head, detached his retina. And they had to surgically remove his eye. And Dad always said, you know, if you're ever under threat, you must be violent. Because I wasn't. I was a big putz and I've lost my eye on the back of it. So I was always overreacting. And one of the things that I always tried to do was impose myself on the opposition. So with Exeter, I'd try and impose myself. So I'd try and fight with Rob Baxter.
You get battered.
Well, Danny Port, Keith Brooking, Phil Sluman, Dave Sims, Gary Willis, Rich Baxter, they'd all batter me as well. So I'd punch one. And
They're all in.
Fists from everywhere. I was like, whoa. It was my first experience of a pack of forwards.
Really?
That genuinely loved one another. And the terminology at the time was it's a pack of West Country mutes.
Yeah.
Like that was what people used to say about the people from the southwest of England. They're all West Country, they're crazy.
Farmer strength and all that.
I quite liked this concept of a pack.
Yeah.
So I'm in Biarritz, I failed dramatically. And my agent says there's a couple of opportunities back in England. One's at Coventry with a lot more money, one's at Exeter. And Coventry had screwed over a pal of mine. Danny Collins had done a deal, he'd done his ACL and they'd sacked him. I was like, well, I don't trust Coventry. I don't want to go there. Exeter's lots less of an offer, but I really like this pack that they've got. I want to go to Exeter. So I went to Exeter, did no media training, didn't have a clue what I was doing, did an interview, and the back page of the Express and Echo said Enforcer checks in. The byline was, it's all right, lads, I'm on your side. And I'd done no media training, and I just went on about how I'd fought with the Baxters, and I really liked the concept of playing for Exeter.
And they picked up on that.
Oh, mate, first training session, everyone's like, here's the Enforcer. Oh, he thinks he's tough. Oh, they come on, mate. They got into me like nobody's business. And me being me, I was like, yes, I am. Yes, I am the Enforcer. I'll deal with you all.
I'll deal with you all.
So I was a bit plump, but I was still in decent nick. So I was training hard, and this is where I started to find my voice. I was just loud. And you go back in time now, rather than just accept, like, get your head down and just earn the respect. I was like, no, I'm going to make them respect me. So I was just loud, brash, fought for everything. Ian Bremner, the coach, liked me, so he picked me for every game. And when we'd sign shirts, because you used to do sponsor signing, I'd always sign, and then some bugger would always write player MC or #4 or whatever. So all the signed shirts from sort of 2004-05, everyone was just bastardising what I'd write and getting into me. And I'd own it. I was like, yeah, that's me. I'm the player MC. Yeah. And I was 24, so I'm starting to find my feet. As rather than be the young upstart and keep my head down, I was really starting to have a go. Yeah. And we had a whale of a time. Our first season, we finished second, and it was a good job we didn't win the league. If you're a rugby, well, you're not a rugby nose, but if you read Rob Kitson's book Road Warriors, chapter 5, it's pretty much about me. Sorry, the book is X-Men, chapter 5, Road Warriors, is like my autobiography at Chiefs, that I was just a loose goose, just loving it. Because having had my experience with Oral, where I'd realised we were just commodities for clubs as professional players.
You just wanted to enjoy it.
I just wanted to make sure I got as much fun from it as I could. And that was my driver. So
you've seen Chiefs like progress almost from like the very start, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because what league were they in when you joined them?
Oh, it was second division, but we finished second 3 times before we won the league.
Yeah, and it took a while to get up, didn't it?
Oh God, yeah. So county ground, we finished my first season at county. Well, there's a diversion from this. So my first year at the county ground, we finished second, and I played every minute of every game, I think, pretty much. And then the second year, I'd got picked to play for England County. So at the end of the first year at Exeter Chiefs, I got picked to play for. Sorry if I'm boring everyone. I'm talking.
No, this is for me.
You're not. Yeah.
This is for the rugby noises out there.
So the end,
tell them to skip ahead.
Yeah,
like an hour. Just if you want to talk about this.
So the end of my first year with Chiefs, a big thing for me was county rugby. I'd played Cheshire under 16s, 17s, 18s, 19s, 21s. And I asked if I could go and play for Cheshire County because I really wanted to play for my senior county. And Bremner, the head coach, was like, you can go and play for Cheshire, but you can't do anything beyond that because there's further representative honours. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I just want to play for Cheshire. And I went back and I captained Cheshire to relegation. Great captain, man.
Cheers.
So we had Lancashire, Yorkshire and Northumberland, and I was gutted. And my expenses were ridiculous because I was driving from Exeter to Cheshire on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night to train. And most of the lads weren't national second division players. They were like divisions low. But I had a whale of a time. I got picked to go on the England Counties tour to Argentina again. And I rang up Bremner and said, look, mate, I've been picked to go on this counties tour. I'm going to go. And he's like, I've told you, you can't do anything beyond that. I said, look, it's representing England. I'm going to Argentina. I will report back for the beginning of pre-season, ready to go. You can't stop me. So I went on this tour and I came back and Bremner and I had this argument through metaphor. It was amazing. I got back and he's like, you were like a soldier that went AWOL. And I was like, you were like a crazy general sending us over the top to get shot. He said, you've got to obey your orders. Like, no, I haven't. And we had this argument. And so he dropped me for the first 3 games. And we had a tough season. We finished 6th and Bremner ended up getting sacked. And that was the last season at the county ground. And Rob Baxter came in as the head coach midway through the year. And he's like, Chris, we really like you. You know, you're a big character. We want you to stay. But financially, the offer that and the standard the club were at, I'm now 27, and my agent was like, "There's a few offers for you because you've played a fair bit of rugby," and one of them was to go back to New Zealand and play for a brand new team called Tasman, which was in the Canterbury province. I didn't know much about it, but I had this chip on my shoulder because I got homesick and gone home from New Zealand. So I wanted to go back and do that. So I said, "Look, I love the Chiefs. I think it's a cracking club. I can see you going places, but I myself want to go and exercise this demon." And I left Exeter and went back to New Zealand, played a season for Tasman, and had an absolute it was a huge time for me because brand new team. The New Zealand Rugby Union owns all the clubs in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So they put a huge amount of weight behind it. And it was myself, John Brooks, Tim Taylor, Ben Gollings were 4 Englishmen they took over, 2 fly-halves, a tight head prop and a tight head lock. And we were going to sort of underpin the team and allow a lot of guys from the Canterbury province to get some experience. We had Caleb Ralph one year who was an All Black. We had Chris Jack who was an All Black. We had Rico Gear who was an All Black. All come and play as well. And for me, it was we had this weekend away where what you do with the rugby team every year is you get together and you go, what's our North Star? What's going to matter to us? What behaviours are we going to demand of each other? And I always used to love that stuff. But with the New Zealand Rugby Union, we went away on this week and they brought Dave Hatfield in, who was the New Zealand sports psychologist. And he took us to another level because we were a brand new team. We knew we were going to have a rough time of it. And he got Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, which if you haven't read, I recommend everybody reads. Great book. And it's logotherapy, but it's to paraphrase, under any set of circumstances, you can decide how you set your tone, your mood. And we knew we were going to have some tough times of it, and we had that. And then we had Dave Hewitt, New Zealand prop, was give us the lessons from the geese. Have you heard the lessons from the geese?
No.
So lessons from the geese, they always fly in a delta formation. So the one at the front takes 30% more wind resistance than all the others, and all the ones around it quack. So they're like going, "Come on, mate, you can fly." And if one of them gets poorly or injured, he goes down, 2 will stay with it so they can fly the delta, so they fly better together. And Dave was saying, he's playing for Canterbury at Loftus Versfeld against the Blues. And they'd had a man in the bin and he turned around to all the boys and went, "Whack." All the boys knew he was a duck, they all got behind him. But it's just lessons from the geese. So you have stuff like this, and we have Man's Search for Meaning and all this cerebral stuff that was coming into it. And I was like, I love this. And it made me want to try harder and do more with my rugby. The New Zealand season's protracted. So I was going to stay over there and I'd got a job with More FM to work with the radio station. But my agent said there's an opportunity in Scotland to play for Edinburgh in the Magners League. I was like, look, I'm really happy New Zealand, I'm settled. And he told me how much money they were offering me. And I was like,
fair play.
Mate,
I'm ready to go to Scotland.
It was the only contract I ever took for money. I genuinely cashed in, went over to Edinburgh, played with the Edinburgh team, which was ridiculous. Because they had a load of Scotland internationals. I was playing with Scott Murray in the second row. Adam Jacobson was a prop in front of me. There was all sorts, and it was a ridiculous time. And they should never have signed me. They had 8 senior second rows. No idea why I went, but I played a fair bit of rugby in the Magners League, and had some great experiences, which I don't need to allude to. Edinburgh just been bought by the Carruthers brothers, entertainment moguls.
Yeah,
and Bob Carruthers just loved the crack, and we played Leinster in Dublin. And it was a Six Nations weekend, so all the internationalists were away, and we played at Donnybrook, I think it was. And after the game, we went out to this club in Dublin, and Bob was like, "Tab 25 is on me, boys." And I won't do the Scottish. He was a big, rotund boy, and we're in this nightclub VIP section. And Matt Muschin, this Kiwi second row, was like, "Tab 27's on us, right?" I'll have 6 bottles of Cristal, and mate, we drank all the Cristal at this mate, it was like balling. It was my one experience of being a baller, and it was all on Bob Crudder, and he thought it was hysterical. Like, we drank all the champagne. He genuinely thought it was like the best night ever. And we're like, yeah, get on, Bob, you're the boy. He's like, yeah, he's one of the lads. It was just stuff like that. But then left, so Edinburgh, finished my time there, and went back to New Zealand. But it was while I was in Edinburgh, Rob Baxter called me back up and said, look, we're keen for you to come back to Exeter. And at that point, I was 27, 28, and I was looking at it going, well, my plan was to play to 34. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? Don't know. Could see Exeter were on the up. And my agent said, well, you've got opportunities with Dax, London Irish, Newcastle, and Exeter. Exeter was the lowest level club, lowest pay of the offers on the table. But I liked Exeter and thought, actually, that might be the opportunity for me. So went back to Exeter. And truth be told, sort of failed. My last 5 years at Exeter, I played 63 games in 2 seasons with Exeter. And then in the next 5 years, I played 62, played less games. So injuries. And there was an element of, because I'd gone from Exeter to New Zealand, to Edinburgh, to New Zealand, back to Exeter. So I played 5 seasons on the bounce without stopping. Yeah. My body sort of broke down. But also I was finding it difficult not getting picked, and I was perhaps not the best character to be around.
What were the years that you played for Exeter in that stint? Because that was your longest stint, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I did 5 years from 2007 to 2012.
Yeah, and those are pretty good times for Exeter.
Oh, God, yeah. We finished second.
That was the rise, wasn't it?
Yeah, we finished second. We won the league. We established in the Prem, and we established in the Prem. So I played in the Premiership. Yeah. Played like 12 games a year. We got promoted, but I ruptured my bicep. Okay. So I ruptured my bicep twice. I had an Achilles tendinopathy, which ruled me out for a period of time. Ruptured my posterior cruciate in my knee. So things just kept going wrong.
You did a lot, yeah.
And that was where I started to find the transition piece moving into the commercial side of the club. Right. Because if you weren't picked to play, they would say, you
had to get in front of the
you've either got to coach kids up on the top track, which means you've got to come in at 10 o'clock. Yeah. Or you come in at midday and do hospitality. And I was like, well, fuck that, I'm going to do hospitality.
Have some beers with the boys.
So I'm in the hospitality lounges, and the chap that was hosting it was a bit nervous and cumbersome. And I'm Chris Bentley, player MC. I was like, give me the mic, I'll do this.
Yeah. You got theatre studies A-level.
Yeah, correct. Correct. So I was doing the hosting the match day lounges when I wasn't playing.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed being in front of people.
You did, didn't you? Yeah.
Through my rugby career, I was the social sec for of my 13-year career. 7 years I was social secretary. Yeah. So Tasman for 2 years, I ran all the socials for them. Chiefs, I ran all the socials for them. And the drive of me was just pulling everyone together. I just loved having everyone together, having a fun time. If I could facilitate a fun time, I could almost stand back and watch it happen because I was just happy that everyone was having a crack.
Yeah. Yeah. You've done like loads of different things, or you do loads of different things. Do you have to like change your personalities for those different things?
Yeah, I'm a social chameleon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can fit to suit. 100%.
But then you're also not, are you? Because you like to stand out in those places.
And you're very much about your own person. You know, you
do you know
yourself
what?
a lot of the time.
I now know who I am.
Yeah.
I didn't when I was younger. Okay. I'm more comfortable in my skin today than I ever have been.
And you don't pretend.
No, and I was so this is an interesting one. I was with my daughter, and she's really getting into music in a big way, and she was listening to FKA Twigs, and I said I'm fascinated by FKA Twigs because she's quite young, but she knows who she is, and she's authentically herself. Now I'm authentically myself now, but I'm fascinated by people that have found themselves because we all fit in. We spend a lot of time fitting in. I spend a lot of my life fitting in and playing a role that perhaps I wasn't, and acting up perhaps. Whereas now I'm genuinely just me, and I'm really comfortable.
How did you get on with like the transition from going from being like a rugby lad, social sec and all that, at a time where it was still pretty loose, wasn't it? No social media, all that sort of stuff. Going into the
my last 2 years as a rugby player, Twitter arrived.
Yeah,
so
that's very fun.
This was the whole thing, and how did I handle the transition? It was tough.
Yeah.
Really tough. Because I honestly thought I was going to play rugby forever. I thought I was going to be a perennial rugby player. I was my injury that I got at Oral when I was 24, up until then, I honestly thought I was invincible. I thought I was the anomaly. I was like Kal-El. I couldn't be broken. Because I got the most consecutive starts for Oral that hit their record. Yeah. I thought I was an indestructible human, which is ridiculous. Absolutely fucking stupid. But I genuinely thought I was unbreakable. And then going through my rugby career, I thought I was going to play rugby forever. I'd be 70 years old playing rugby. I hadn't considered my future.
Do you think you need that mindset though to be able to play at that standard?
I think at the professional game, what became apparent to me in the last couple of years at Chiefs is I started to meet professional rugby players. So I just loved rugby. I just wanted to be involved in rugby. I was one of the first, not in a good way, I was one of the first ones there and one of the last to leave because I wanted to be in the environment. I wasn't like the Johnny Wilkinsons doing extras. I just wanted to be in the environment. I wanted to be amongst all these guys having a crack.
Is that a sign of the time though?
No, no. The thing was, I met professionals. So there was, I'll say his name, Andy Higgins. He was a professional rugby player. Yeah, he didn't really care for rugby, but he knew it would pay him beyond what anything else he could earn at that age. So if the training day started at 8, he'd be there at 1 minute to 8, and as soon as the training finished, the door would be swinging. He'd gone. Like he just came in, did what he needed to do, and left. Yeah, and I couldn't get my head around why you wouldn't want to be there and just be amongst it, just in that environment. And in a way, I was probably selfish. I was taking probably a bit more than I was giving, but the transition. Well, I can give you because I had a line in the sand transition, which if you haven't heard, I'll tell you.
Yeah, go.
So, Rob Baxter had said to me in my final year, with rugby union, your contracts are normally in 2-year cycles, and in the second year, only your club can speak to you up until January. So once you go to January, you're on the open market, anybody can sign you. And I'd gone and seen Rob and I said, look, Rob, where am I at? He said, well, Chris, we like you around the squad. You're a big character. You're good fun to be around. You're injured a bit too much and you are quite expensive. So we're going to look at the marketplace. And if we find cheaper talent, we're probably going to go for that. If not, we'll keep you. And me being stupid thought, well, that's me getting another contract. So I've thought, well, I'm getting another deal. That hadn't really listened to what he said. I decided I'd take what I wanted from it. And we got to January, nothing. We got to February, nothing. I went and saw him. He said, look, this is where we're at. We're still looking. We're getting close. We might well get somewhere. And then Tony Rowe called me into his office, the chief exec of the club, and said, right, Chris, I'm telling you now, you're not going to get another contract. We'd like you to interview for the commercial team. And I was 33 at the time. And I went, well, Rob said, and he went, no, it says on my badge, I'm the chief exec. Yeah. You need to interview for this job. You're not getting another contract. And
so they wanted to keep you in the club.
Yeah, they're a decent character.
There's two sides to that. Quite flattering, but tough at the same time because you were expecting another contract.
At the time, I was quite selfish and didn't see the second side. I just saw. I was just crushed. So I've gone into the changing room, and all the lads have got wind of the fact that I'm dust. So they're walking around pretending to dust me up. One of the lads got a Hoover, he's running it round.
God, that is rugby for you.
The changing room was called the Snake Pit. Yeah. And I was one of the biggest proponents of that. And I was really upset. Went up on the top track, had a breakdown, had a fight with one of the lads. Complete mess. Went back in the changing rooms, crying my eyes out. And Robin Cowling was scrum coach, late 60s. He'd played for England in like the 70s, 80s. He dislocated his shoulder, put his hand in his pocket and carried on playing because he didn't want anyone to know he was hurt. Like that was the standard he was at. Then, hard man. Yeah. And he came up and saw me bawling my eyes out, and he gave me 8 words of mental health advice that for 95% of the population are probably true. Yeah. There's 5% of people that when they have a mental health problem, they need help. But the vast majority, and I'll say, suck it up, you fucking fanny. That's what he said to me.
Wasn't expecting that.
No.
No, I wasn't.
He came walking. I'm literally sat there like, oh, it's all over. I'm not a rugby. He was, suck it up, you fucking fanny. And I was like, yeah, he's sort of right here. I've still got all my faculty about me. Everything's good. I've been offered a job that I want. I wanted this job 5 years ago. I'd made the decision to come back to Exeter because I thought I'd get the role. It just came a bit earlier. Suck it up. So I apologised to the lad I had a fight with. I apologised to the team. Everyone accepted it. And my final 3 or 4 months in the squad, I trained on a Monday, Tuesday with the team. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was in the commercial team. And my mentor in the role was a man called John Wood, who I adore. John Wood. He's been brilliant. He took this lad with low conformity, high extrovert, knocked a load of rough edges off me and allowed me to grow into a role as a salesman, which instinctively I was, but I didn't know. Yeah. And he helped me massively.
I suppose it's quite different for the way that it happened with your journey. But do you think rugby helps professionals, players to go on to their next stage in life?
No, doesn't at all. No, because you've got to be so committed. Well, the generation I was in, it was all about you've got to be committed to the game. if you're doing anything outside of the game, you're not trying your best. And so everything was like, focus on, do extra training, do more, blah, blah, blah. There's been an evolution now where it's like, you're a better human if you do other things. And rugby players are encouraged to have other interests and not just be PlayStation ninja shit. I wasted 1 year of my life. This is a true story. When I was at Oral, I'm big on music. I love my music. I was taking my CDs and ripping them so I could have them on my computer to listen to, because this was before iTunes. And then bastard iTunes came out a year later. But I used to take CDs, put them in my computer, boom, 6 minutes to rip it. So
LimeWire, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was LimeWire. So I used to rip my CDs, right? And I genuinely spent about a year of my life in my
ripping CDs.
In my off time. I'd sit there ripping CDs so I could have them digitized. And then iTunes came out, ruined the whole thing. So
what's been like the biggest like changes around Exeter Chiefs, would you say, from what you've seen?
Oh, the professionalism.
Like what though, professionalism? Because we say like, the professionalism, but what has been the changes within that? Like, give us some specifics.
How the guys conduct themselves, how the guys behave, and their attention to detail on all fronts. So my generation, we were hard. We all loved one another. We worked hard, but we didn't really understand what hard work was. And our hard work was off the field as well as on the field. Now, I would maintain that we built some pretty decent bonds. Especially in the 4-5-5-6 season, the 4-5 season especially, we were tight because we only had about 25 players. We played every minute of every game. Like, we were hanging together, and then after games we were celebrating together, and we were professional with a small p. So there was only 8 or 9 of us didn't have jobs.
Yeah,
there was, our training was very early in the morning and very late at night, so the Baxters could work on the farm.
Yeah.
Now they're different level.
Yeah,
and we would get drunk every week. Those guys, the guys now, half of them don't even drink because they realise alcohol's a depressant. 72 hours it's in your system. If you drink on a Saturday, you're still struggling on a Monday, whether you believe it or not. And so they have much greater attention to detail. They look at their nutrition in a much better way. Their training is more specific. So we used to have sort of general training like gainers and maintainers, lads that need to gain weight, lads that just maintain weight. Now that I've bespoke programs to each individual.
Yeah, none of that.
Oh no, they're next level.
Yeah,
I can't compare myself to the Chiefs of today. They are miles ahead of where I was.
Yeah, and it's all happened in such a short space of time in comparison to a lot of sports, hasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
I mean, professionalism only 30 years ago.
Yeah, but you hear people like Delalio, who's Lawrence Delalio, England captain, British Lion, a few years before me. When the game went pro, and the conditioning coach was saying, this is what we need to do. And he'd be like, well, why are you telling me you were a chemist last week?
Yeah.
Like, you know history in this. Well, now there's 25 years of time. Well, it's 26 years, I think, of rugby union being professional. People are starting to see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I'm part of the cohort where we used to do like hours of bone-on-bone contact training.
It's not fun, is it?
Well, it was. I used to love it, but a lot of my peers have been afflicted with injuries, or there's a fair few in the brain injury case that's ongoing, because people didn't know.
No.
And if you were concussed, it was like, man up, get on with it.
I'll tell you what, you're probably in a great place to talk about this, but like rugby's going through the last couple of years, especially like post-COVID. It's in a weird place, isn't it, with the RFU, the disconnect between the community game and the professional game. And I think for like us big rugby fans, we think rugby's a big game. Then we were like a big sport.
Yeah.
But, salary cap's going down, viewership's going down. What's rugby doing wrong?
It needs to decide what it wants to be.
Okay.
It needs to decide what it wants to be. From my perspective, the biggest thing of rugby is the gladiatorial aspect. It is the physical confrontation. Now, at community and junior level, it's pretty much proven now that there's no greater chance of long-term cognitive challenges, because a 20-stone person is fat and they're not running too hard. At the elite tier, where you're professional, there is a definite increased chance of you having a brain injury or a problem.
Yeah.
The game is safer than it's ever been. There's head injury protocols. Everybody now, the culture has changed. So rather than man up, it's like, don't train pain. You're injured, take a chill pill. You're always going to have a problem because players will, by nature, are going to want to play. I've spoken about the 2-year contract cycle. Most players are on short contract cycles. So if they get injured, they're starting to flap about, are they going to keep their job? So they're going to. There was an occasion in my generation, Ben White, he'd ruptured medial ligaments in one knee, and he managed to get the whole week's training pretending it was the other knee. So the physios were checking his bad knee, and then it was only the week of it was like the day of the game. They're like, mate, your knee's goosed, you can't play. Like he was trying to hide it. This is what players do. There's a duty of care.
Yeah.
But for mine, I think rugby needs to lean into the physical nature of itself and say, look, there is a danger, just as there is in boxing, in MMA, in lots of other sports. But players are willing to take that risk. And everybody, when you see the highlights packages of rugby union, it's the massive collisions, it's the massive tackles.
Always.
That's what people want to see. So we said, well, that's the game.
And we've almost like dulled that down now. Like people don't want to show that, do they? Because they don't want it to be a dangerous collision.
They've gone to the halfway house with red cards.
Yeah.
So my generation foul play was stamping on someone, kicking someone, punching someone. Malicious. Sorry, we're rugby to death, aren't we? Glazing.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Just don't have a lot to add, but I'm there with you.
Okay, so that's where we've got to take the game for mine. Is say, look, it's a physical game. If you're injured or you're in doubt, don't play. But you also have some autonomy, and you also have to realise that if things go wrong, you might have to live with some proper cognitive problems later in your life.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that, don't do it.
Yeah.
Rugby is a game for anyone. It's not for everyone. And I think that's where it needs to go. But the challenge of contact and physicality, it's character building, doing a hard thing. And this comes back to the stoicism. A horrible rainy December and you're doing full contact training. Well, there's only certain people that want to do that. But if you get through that, the feeling of elation when you get through that with your teammates and you've done it together, that's special. Makes you
better at doing hard things.
Oh, God. What is it? The difficulty is the way, isn't it? I think it's Marcus Aurelius says or something like that. The path is the way. So that's where you want to be. And there's a lot of benefit to be had from what rugby union can instill.
Yeah, especially like younger children as well. Like, I think it's a huge part.
Absolutely.
What are clubs like Chiefs doing wrong then? What can they do? Do you know what I mean?
It has to be a
or just any Premiership club.
No, it has to be across the board, because at the moment it's still not sure, because there's this grow the game rhetoric and everyone's frightened about people being nervous for their children and what have you. Well, don't want little Jimmy to get motor neurons disease when he grows up. Well, he's not going to.
Does that where there has to be a real clear detachment between like the community game and the club game opposed to the professional game?
But this is the challenge. Yeah. For mine, I quite like the continuity right the way through the board. And what I'd like to do is take an attitude that's going to be difficult for 4 or 5 years. I'd cut the funding into the Premiership. I'd put more funding into the second tier. I'd make it less of a cataclysm. So if teams fall down or not, they can bounce through the leagues a bit better.
Yeah.
I'd encourage broadcast of the second tier across a free to view if possible, if not on a paid channel. And I'd try and grow the game with a wider base at the bottom rather than the elites tier.
Yeah. And that's almost like the New Zealand route, isn't it?
Correct. I'd also invest heavily into community development and coaching, because one of the problems is local clubs are battling. COVID damaged rugby more than probably any other sport, because you couldn't have contact, you couldn't be together. And also there's a commitment that's required from rugby union that's quite a long season. And a lot of people are going, well, COVID meant I could go and shopping. When they came out of it, it's like, I don't want to commit to every Tuesday, Thursday at a rugby club.
Yeah.
And you have to commit to it.
Yeah.
So it becomes a bit of a challenge. And I think you've got to try and reinstitute rugby clubs as bastions of local communities where people can go and do things and be a part of it.
I think that's a huge part of it, isn't it? I think rugby, basically what you've said, you just got to embrace what it is.
Yeah.
It's a contact sport.
Yes.
You're going to get injured.
You cannot shy away from that fact.
No, you're always going to get injured.
But again, there has to be something. So I budgeted in my life as a rugby player, once I've had 3 major surgeries, I will retire. Now, there's guys that boast about having 18 surgeries. Well, I've been under general anaesthetic 3 times as a rugby player. And on the 3rd time, I said, right, that's it, I'm retiring, never playing again. Cut my boots off. Now, I'm 6 years out of that and I'm thinking about playing some veterans rugby, but that's me being stupid. As soon as I had that 3rd big injury, I said, I'm done.
Yeah.
Don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And I think there's an element of passing it to the guys. This is a physical game.
Yeah.
And some people aren't up to the and there's no negative. It's just that's what it is.
Should we move on to the more commercially stuff now?
Yeah, look, I can talk rugby all day long.
I learned a lot there, guys.
If you want me to talk code, I can talk code. But it's in my DNA. My uncle captained the north of England. My dad played. I play. I love the game.
Yeah.
And right now, at the moment, I'm 50-50 with Exeter Chiefs to put an event on at Sandy Park. So I'm involved with the elite tier, and I'm part of this Legends program where we're doing masterclasses. and I'm also working at South Molton, which is the lowest level of English rugby. So right across the board, I'm involved.
Just
in rugby.
always involved.
Just love the game.
Yeah.
And I love so much of what it's about. Part two.
Part two.
We've done the rugby doors, and I've had to do like the damp and down because I talk socials and stuff. But I've got to be careful. I've got Haskell at Sandy Park in 3 weeks.
Tell us about that, because that's a huge event. Surely that's a big one coming.
Yeah. I've done. David Duckham played for England, and he did the Southwest Sporting Club, and I used to go to all of his events, and sadly he died, and nobody stepped into the breach, and I was like, well, I love a sporting dinner, so I'd like to carry on the legacy of, but I'd just flip it up. So what happens normally with a sporting dinner is you have possibly a comedian, a speaker, and that's that. And I was like, well, let's get 2 people that have played elite level sport, put them together and have a crack with them both, and not allow them to speak their scripted piece. I saw Nigel Owens, the referee, one of the best speakers I've ever seen.
I've been to that.
Thought he was amazing.
Yeah.
But then the second time I saw him, he was possibly one of the worst, because he's been given a script and he just...
Was it the same?
Pretty much.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're like, well, it's funny, but I'm not actually seeing the soul of Nigel Owens. What I'm seeing is something that he's pre-prepared and he's written. Yeah. And what I want to see is the soul of him. I want to get into him. I want to feel what he's about. So by getting a couple of speakers together, Q&A in them, I make it so that we're actually being real.
And just to cut in there, that's exactly like we try to do with this as well, because we started off the podcast, it was all scripted. Yeah. For the questions for like us to you, we've got like a few questions here, but you just never had a genuine conversation. Yeah. No. And like when you're organic and you just talk about things, we're talking about so many things I never would have thought we would have talked about, spoken about. So you do get the personalities, don't you? It's more real.
If you can do the pattern disrupt, if you can jump in, so because once I'll start talking and
that's all right. We'll do it.
Right, Benos, tell me about Chris Froome. We're like, oh, what's that? But then we're being real. Now we're getting into it.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy is starting to see the real soul of people. So I did John Bark. No, I did. Who did I do first? We did Kelly Brown and Andy Powell, which was brilliant.
Oh.
Because Andy Powell is the loosest goose in town.
Couple of big hitters.
And Kelly Brown was mate, brilliant story at the end of that. So I'd said to them both, look, you can stay at my house afterwards. We'd just moved into the big house up in Willand. And Kelly was like, look, it's my daughter's first day at school. I'd like to leave as soon as we're done, and I'll leave very early in the morning. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And Powell's the complete opposite. He's tucking in. He called me and said, look, I'm having a problem. I've been a bit loose recently. Can I come to yours early? I was like, of course you can. So we arrived at my house early. So we had a couple of pints at the pub just to settle our nerves. And then when we got there, he was on a sponsor's table with a load of North Devon farmers. They got him doing shots and all sorts. So by the time he's on stage...
Because everyone knows how loose he is.
Mate, he was battered. He was battered. So at the end of the night, everyone's leaving. I found him on the second floor of Winslade, like lost his blazer, his shoes, his train ticket home. Kelly Brown, on the flip, I'd given him my postcode and said, go home. Well, my postcode is the same as my neighbours, and my neighbours live off the grid. So Stig is composting toilet, solar-powered generator, lives off the land. He's got 4 acres, and he lives off his land. And Kelly had gone back to Stig's house, knocked on and said, oh, mate, I'm staying at Chris Bentley's. Never heard of Chris Bentley. I'd only been there a week. She said, look, do you want to stay with us while you wait for Chris? So he's got in. They're all dreadlocks and piercings and what have you.
No way.
Stig, he's getting his phone. He's like, Bentos, I'm at Hills Have Eyes. Where the fuck are you? And he's like texting me. I had like 26 text messages because he's with my neighbours who were just like chilling out. And eventually I got him. I was like, oh, mate, sorry. I'm one house further down. Go in there. Shared courtyard. And we live in Braddon's barn and our neighbours are Braddon's farmhouse. So he's gone with my key to Braddon's farmhouse, tried it, didn't work, walked round the back and gone into their kitchen. So he's already had Stig and Dinah's house. Now he's in with the other guys. and he's in their kitchen. And Ian comes down and is like, what are you doing in my house? And Kelly Brown, 6'4", Scottish international in a kilt with all of his gear. So eventually he found it back to our house. He only got back to our house about 5 minutes after we did.
Oh my God. When was this? When was that event? When was that?
That was a couple of years ago now. Right. So we did Kelly Brown, Andy Powell, and then I did John Barkley, John Bentley.
Yeah.
And then I did, I'd lined up Razor Ruddock and Gary Caldwell. And it didn't sell, Razor Ruddock, Gary Caldwell. I was gutted. Yeah. So I paid Razor Ruddock £1,000 not to come to Devon.
Did you?
So I cancelled that one. And I went and spoke with Tony Rowe and said, look, you're the sporting venue in town. if you put your weight behind it commercially, I'd rather bring these sporting dinners to you because I feel we're going to do better because you've got 100,000 people on your database. You can sell it. And we took a few months to battle down how it was going to be. So as opposed to me paying for the venue and what have you, it's like, we'll split the cost and we'll work this out. And we got there. And so we're doing James Haskell. And I'm going to do a Q&A with him. And then I'm going to bring Ethan and Jimmy Roots, who are supposedly really good crack.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a sporting dinner with all of those guys together.
That's good.
6th of March. Tickets are available.
Tickets still there we go.
But if you search Sandy Park events, so
we'll put a little link.
That's the one for that. And then the plan is I've got Delalio hopefully in September.
Oh bloody!
And just try and start doing
big
sporting dinners, but not just let them stand up and tell their stories. Sort of just
bit different.
Prompt them a bit and pattern disrupt and have a crack. And I feel being a bit more organic is a nicer way to do it.
Yeah. So what's that? So dinner, Q&A,
3-course dinner,
party.
So you'll have we'll do a serious Q&A before dessert. Then after dessert, we'll pull the shackles off and have a crack.
Off you go.
Yeah.
And that's at Sandy Park, is it?
That's at Sandy Park, yeah.
Nice. How many people would you come into that?
At the moment, about 220.
Okay, big.
But I'd rather. I think 300 is about the right number for something like that.
Is that is that networking?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think you'll have a bit of time beforehand, and there'll be time after as well at the bar. So yeah. But also, it's proper white collar. It's a white collar sort of thing, if I can say that. So lots of finance, legal, accountancy is sort of going to be in the room. So they'll all cross pollinate and do their bits. Yeah, which is a nice byproduct. But as I say in the promotion, it's great staff entertainment. It's rewarding your staff, looking after key clients, or if you just want to have a good night out.
Yeah.
It's not advertised as networking.
But that's the best networking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you're not, you don't know you're networking.
When you're not working.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that for a segue!
What a transition! Tell us a bit about that then, because I see you as a networker.
Yes,
the formal phrase, I suppose, but a good connector.
Well, so you got to go backwards again. I've retired from the Chiefs as a player, joined the commercial team. In the commercial team at Chiefs, at that time, the club was doing brilliantly. Every game we were better. At Sandy Park, we were almost unstoppable. And I've been a part of the club for 125 first team games. Love it, roll at the sleeve. That's where my bicep fixed. I'm playing the role and I'm having a crack and rough around the edges, but it's something that the region's never had. So I'm a man in the right place at the right time. I'm full of bombast. I'm full of hyperbole. Everybody wants to be a part of this success story. So I wasn't really selling. I was order taking. And then on a match day, I'm running around the corporate lounges with lads I played rugby with, just having fun and being like a rugby club, not a corporate entity, which all the corporate people loved. Because I find when you're high net worth, everybody says, yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, ma'am, whatever it may be. And if someone comes, don't be a dick, let's crack on. And they quite like that pattern disrupt. So I was having fun. I was embarrassing people in the room and they're loving it. And we were having sell out on sell out on sell out. And I left the Chiefs. So after 6 years in the role, I went and saw Tony Rowe. I wanted to move up the rank. It was my ego was a bit fragile. So Hugh Vivian, I played students with. Matt Powell, I was on the 21s tour with. Cueto was my age. They're flatmen. They're all getting directorships at Premiership clubs. So I went and saw Rowie and I said, look, am I on a pathway to being a director? And he went, well, no, you're a salesman. I said, yeah, I know I'm a salesman, but what's my pathway? Because I was working very hard. He said, you're a salesman. And it was a point where I had to accept that I was going to be good old Chris and that was going to be my role, or I had to go. And I went on probably a 3 or 4 month fact find with Tony. We had 3 or 4 meetings where I was discussing, and I explained where I wanted to go and what was happening. And it was very much, if you put up and shut up for another 4 or 5 years, something might happen, but it might not. So I made the decision at that point to leave. So I resigned my role and started working with my wife. And at the time it was Smith King Baker was the name of our agency. And what humbled me was it became very apparent to me that people didn't love me. They loved the fact that I was in the seat at Chiefs and I could facilitate things. So I started going to networking events trying to say, I'm Smith King Baker, we can help you with your marketing. And it was very transactional. It was very, here's my card. And I went to BNI and some of the other things. And it's like, how many leads have you got this week? How much business have you converted? And I was like, oh, this is a bit horrible. And my phone didn't ring anywhere near as much. And I'd ring people and they wouldn't want to talk to me. And it was really humbling because I thought I was the master of the universe and I wasn't. I just happened to be in a very fortunate position And I'd probably got too caught up in my own self-importance. And I thought, well, I don't like any of these networking events. I want to do my own. So Rory Sutherland, who's from Ogilvy, originally from Ogilvy, he's one of the best marketeers in the world. He's written a book, Alchemy. Everybody should read it. And his thing is the opposite of a good idea can also be a good idea. And so I said, well, I want to do a networking event where no one talks about business. We have an arrival drink and we try and replicate what took place in the corporate lounges at Chiefs. Because when you network, you will you'll have a barrier. What does this person want from me? Why do they want to transact with me? And you're a bit nervous. Whereas when you go to a sporting event, and this is why it continues to perpetuate, is you like rugby, I like rugby, we're enjoying this, we have a commonality, you're 5 to 7 times more likely to work with someone you like. So I'll now do business with you because I quite like you. That's how it works. So I wanted to generate that, and that was Notworking Networking. Pretty much in a nutshell. We put on an event. We had over 100 people. I had a mate of mine from an agency in Kent come across and do the first speech. He was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Gave up halfway through. Yeah, Jen. You know the Mexican fisherman?
No.
There's a man fishing on a beach and someone comes and stands, an American comes and stands next to him, and the Mexican is just pulling in fish for fun, and the American can't get any. And the Mexican casts out for the American. He pulls in a fish. Goes,
I have heard
you know this. You're good at I'll do it real fast. You're good at fishing. How about we get a boat and we go out to sea? Could you catch more fish? Of course I can. Well, if we went out to sea and we caught more fish, we could get a fleet of boats and we could catch a load of fish. We could get a factory, we could refine them, we could have an industry, we could do it. You could have more money than you can think of. What would you do if you had all more money than you can think of? Well, I'd stand here and fish. So Mexican fisherman. So he did this, but he got lost halfway through, forgot. And then he went, networking, dropped the mic and walked off. And it was like, and for mine, it was like, this is amazing. It's so bad, it's good.
Yeah.
And I had somebody complain, like, this is not what I thought. I was like, brilliant, this is not for you. I'm finding a tribe. I actually wanted people not to like it.
Yeah.
And to go, that's crap. I was like, brilliant. The stronger the feeling, the better it was, because it also meant the people that liked it would love it. And we started putting it together. And that was Networking. And we've had a few, we've learned some lessons. We've had some absolute disasters along
Like
the
what?
way. The one I always talk about was Exeter City Football Club. So I've discovered that serious likes to stand next to stupid. So if you're serious and you present yourself well, you can't be stupid, but you quite like someone that's a bit stupid with you, a bit of a jest, a bit of fun. And we'd done 4 or 5 events. It's going well. Always going to a new venue, getting lots of people in, having fun. And Howard Davis from Salcombe Distilling was really enjoying the concept, and he gave us a load of his gin to give away. Richard Cobb, head of corporate law at Mitchell Moores, brought his whole corporate team along for the experience of networking because it was a nice gateway in. And we're at Exeter City Football Club, and I'd bought this 3-meter inflatable cube. And the whole thing is we have these pattern disrupts throughout, things that are a bit different for people. And a mate of mine, we dressed him up as Father Dave. And I'd gone and I'd bought him like a cassock and a fake wig. And Father Dave was meant to take confessions, and the best confession was going to win 3 bottles of Salcombe gin. So it was all a bit daft. But the confessions that came in were not, I'm a keen ornithologist and I've got a menagerie of birds.
Oh, they were pretty harsh.
They were like,
they?
they're like, I've been married for 20 years and I hate my husband.
Fuck.
And we put this voile through the middle. And it was meant to be fake confessions, and everyone was like giving it to Dave, and Dave's absolutions were buy me a pint or cuddle a stranger or
nice.
run on the spot. It was all ridiculous, and halfway through the voile broke, so he was throwing it over people, so they're under this voile and they're still like giving him what for. So Dave got absolutely steaming, and at the end he got up to talk about these confessions and was a bit risque and got it wrong, and I just saw everybody's body language go.
Oh shit!
Howard was shaking his head. I had a mail from Howard like, "We can't be anywhere near this, Chris. You've got this wrong." And Richard, he hasn't spoken to me since really. We just failed, and the only thing that saved us was lockdown, because everybody forgot. Lockdown
so everybody forgot about it.
Everybody forgot. Lockdown came, and then post lockdown, fair play. Rich Misson from Charles Stanley. He said, "Mate, we need an event. We want to bring everyone together. We can see you're a good connector. Can we do it again?" And I'd had a lot of time through lockdown studying the science of happiness. So I'd done, Paul Dolan, London School of Economics, Happiness by Design, Happy Ever After, 2 cracking books, read them. And I was all about happiness, and I found this book, Nick Marks, who does the Friday Pulse, which is all about happiness. So I got Nick Marks, got him in from London to come and speak. I got Vicky Barnes, who's the happiness professor locally based to give people maxims of happiness. It's all about happiness, and we got it back going again. But I started to Notworking Networking has not been like it's been you know the path to success.
Never a straight line.
Yeah, never a straight line. But we I think we're slowly learning more and more. Every time we do it, we get better.
Yeah, and
we understand what people want. And the event we've got on the 13th of March, I think it is going well. Ticket sales are flying. And I've been a bit of a cynic. I've got 4 very well known Exeter people for a panel. So we're going to talk about how to network, how to grow your brand, blah, blah, blah. And that's obviously going to generate a decent crowd. We've got a big venue. So
if nobody's ever been to a Notworking Networking event, what will that event look like on the 13th?
What do you do differently? Sorry, just to break that down, because I know your awards.
Yes.
You had a great night at the awards,
I went
didn't you?
to the last one. What else do you do alongside all of
So the big thing with Notworking Networking is it's relational, not transactional. So the most important thing for us is don't talk about business, just make friends. And as a byproduct, business will happen. So introduce yourself, be a real human, be an authentic person, and it's becoming more and more important as we're moving into this digital age of AI and automation. It's like the most precious gift you can give someone now is your eyes. It's like, I'm looking at you and I'm talking to you. I'm nowhere else. I am with you, and that's where we got to be. And I'm a massive advocate of being there and developing your soft skills, because the one thing the computers aren't going to have is soft skills. They're not going to be able to converse like humans will in person. They'll be able to converse online, and AI now is digitizing your face.
It's different though, isn't it? You just get so much more from a face.
Of course it is.
Face, yeah.
But I was talking to this before we went live. The biggest marker for longevity is social connection. You can live the most unhealthy lifestyle, but if you've got a really strong social network, you're more likely to live longer than someone who is healthy as a lot but lives on their own.
Yeah.
So I'm driving that massively, and we're leaning heavily into that.
Yeah.
So no business cards. We're going to give you an arrival drink, which could be alcoholic if you so choose, just to sort of it's to set the tone. You don't have to drink alcohol, but it just sets the tone. We're being a bit fun.
Yeah.
We put things in the room to encourage conversation. So we always have a psychic. We found Hippie Pippi. She's on brand. She's got orange hair, orange shoes. She's on brand with it, and it means nothing to me, but a lot of people quite like that because it's what did psychic say for you?
I don't think I saw her.
No, she's there. We have
I'm gutted because I bloody love that.
Oh well, yeah, but there's some people come just for Hippie Pippi, just do a reading, and they want to get their readings because we do it every it's 4 or 5 months. So we've got Hippie Pippi, we've got the Wellness Angels doing neck and shoulder massage. We've got a big pop-up banner with deep and light conversation starters. For the first time at this one, we're going to do a pre-event meet for people that are nervous networkers, where we've got Hannah and Tabitha are going to sort of talk about how it's going to work, hold hands, and explain to people how it will be. So that because it can be nerve-wracking. I don't have an empathy towards that because I'm stupid and I'll go and talk to anyone about anything. But I've been made aware, and I've humbled myself to take the advice of people. Well, some people aren't like you, Chris. One of the biggest learns for me over the last few years is not everybody sees the world as I see the world. And so you've got to be appreciative of other people so that they too can have a nice time.
So it's a nice little opportunity for people that don't do like loads and loads of networking to actually get involved.
It's a gateway into networking.
Not know their networking.
It's a gateway into networking because you're not going to come away with how many business cards have I collected, how many leads have I got. You're just going to come away going, well, I've met some nice people.
Yeah.
And now you can link with them on LinkedIn. They will find you if you've got on well.
I think that as well, to be honest, because now you've got LinkedIn, business cards. I just feel like they're a little bit redundant. If you know a name, you can find somebody, can't you?
Yes.
You can find an email address, you can find
you
a
can
number.
just scan their LinkedIn right there and then.
Yeah.
Well, you can,
yeah.
You can do that, but we try to discourage that, just to come along and meet people.
Yeah. And I think
and
if you're
human.
going with the objective of making friends and like building relationships and you're not networking, it just takes that guard down with everybody, and it's you become less nervous. You're just there to meet people rather than anything else.
But I've alluded to this. In rugby union, we had our North Star and we set our standards where we want to be. And in business, you do your goal setting and your planning. Well, do your life goal setting and just be a bit bigger about it. Because what's your life goal setting going to be? Do you want to? And now I'm older, I can see that people almost sign off a chunk of their life because they want to go and earn money and do the thing, and then they go, "Well, life's short." And I'm reading Atul Gawande's with the end being mortal at the Mo, and it's showing Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how it changes depending on your stage of life. Happiness index drops from the age of I think it's 20 or something. It drops off. And it comes back up when you get to 50 because you're starting to get towards the end of your living experience, and what really matters becomes more important to you. So, human connection and interaction is more important than having the big car and the big house. Those things are lovely. And again, I come back now. So Paul Dolan, Happiness by Design, and he's got this brilliant thing that happiness is pleasure and purpose through time. So if you want to have massive pleasures, if you want to drive a yacht in Monaco, drinking mega champagne, then you're going to have a lot of purpose. You're going to have to work really hard to get that. But if on the flip, you can have a lot of pleasure from, and I always say this, a buttered slice of toast. You don't have to work as hard for that. When I'm coming around to this point, well, I'd rather find my happiness from the simple things than have to graft like sin and sacrifice so much to get there. And I want to have time with my family. We've moved my mother-in-law in last year. We're moving my parents in this year. I want to be with the people that matter to me. And I want to have really strong connections because ultimately what matters? I don't want to be the richest man in the cemetery. I want to have fulfillment. It's the height of wealth.
Do you say that you have this mindset every single day of your life?
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Because I think a lot of people try to think like you. Like I'm just thinking about myself listening to you. I try to be really positive and grateful and happy about everything. But some days it just,
you can't,
doesn't happen, does it?
It was on Sandy Toksvig on QI. You can't always be happy.
No.
Because if you're always happy, then it's not happy. You have to have sadness to have happiness.
Yeah.
So you do have to go. You've got to ride through the humps as well. And sometimes you're not. Your brain chemistry. You wake up, you're not happy. My wife and I were talking just yesterday. We've been a bit grumpy because I think our office overlooks the garden. And when we were in our old house, we were indoors. Our light was always the same. But at the moment, it's just dimpsy. It's just crap, the weather. And we've both got a bit of seasonal affective disorder because it's just a bit grim.
Yeah.
So Faye knocked off early yesterday, and then we got a nice fire rolling, and we sort of reconnected and got back into it because we had a bit of a miserable day. But the key is not to compound it. It's not to allow that seed to germinate. So if you're having a bad day, I'm having a bad day,
and allow it,
and soak it up.
Yeah, that's a nice little thought actually, not to let it compound, because you can so easily let it compound, can't you?
So many people do
find
now.
2 or 3 things which you think that probably wouldn't affect you previously, and like you add the pressure on, don't you? It happens. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
I think so. But again, the key is you don't want to have massive highs and massive lows. You just want to be. Well, I want to. This is what I'm saying. I'm now at this point where I'm really happy where I am. I'd love another £5, but I'm not willing to sacrifice what I've got to get that. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Tell us about the Notty events. The awards.
The awards. So
what happened last year? Because I was at that. I had a flipping great time. Wasn't in work the next day.
The first Notworking Networking we did, and I'd put in quite a bit of time promoting it. And once the time the dust had settled, we'd probably made about £50. And I was nominated as Best New Business at the Exeter Living Awards. And I looked at it and thought, that's pretty cool. But it wasn't really a business and it wasn't really legit. And I went to the Exeter Living Awards and I noticed that most of the people in the room were less concerned about winning an award and more about having a big party. And I hosted it one year, and you sort of noticed tables would go quiet when they were nominated. The rest of the time they were just arsing about. Yeah. So I thought, well, let's lean heavily into that. Let's have an awards where it is a big party, and we're going to celebrate those that don't win as much as those that do win. We'll skittle through the awards, but we'll make it legit. So because of my time at Exeter Chiefs, I knew quite a lot of high-level business people. I said, look, would you be a judge for our awards? We'll do legit criteria. We'll be really hard on the secret shopping, credit checking, making sure people are good at what they do in order for them to have the opportunity.
Because I do worry about that with other awards events, that it's you basically pay to nominate yourself, and then
well, mate, there's the SME one where they send you an email, you've been nominated, you haven't even done anything, and if you pay £1,000 you can do
then we'll give you an award, and everyone will see it,
and then you stick it on your website, and
so that's where the reluctance comes with that, doesn't it?
Whereas we're going, well, look at the legitimacy of our judges. If you want to dig into how we do our criteria for shortlisting and what we look at within the business, like, it's legit. To win one of these awards is good. And so it was the Notworking Networking Awards became the Notties. And so it's a very legitimate award. But what I don't want to have is the someone standing on stage going, well, wasn't it great? Didn't I do well? And 300 people in the room like, I genuinely don't care.
Do you know what? It was funny actually, because I'd only ever been to like the classic events and awards like that.
Yeah.
And then with yours, you were ushering people off the stage as quickly as possible before they could say anything. Yeah. And it was so funny. Like, I think you had somebody up on the screen who did an award speech, didn't you? And you like played 5 seconds. Like, that's enough.
We did
that's enough. And it was gone.
We had Greendale won Hospitality Heroes.
Yeah.
And Lomas, he came on and he did his speech, and we just fast forward through the whole speech. And he goes, good awards, quick awards, and he walked off.
No one wants to listen to that.
But the thing is, like, if you are, say you're Chris Hoy, and you've got terminal cancer and you win a Lifetime Achievement Award, I want to hear what he's got to say because this is a very important moment in his life. But if someone's won best lawyer, well, I don't really want to hear him thank his mum and dad. And at the end of the day, you can go and she can go and thank her mum and dad after the fact. What I want is them to have the moment of the musical sting.
Yeah.
And again, we bespoke pick on musical stings. So you don't just have Titanium from David Guetta. Like we have. Our music is specific to the award. So Techspert, we have Popcorn. So we have silly music, but they come up, they have their photo on the stage, and then they go. So they've got their moment, they're happy, they've got a really nice award, and our awards are ace. So we've found Brendan Rawlings, who's a local woodworking artist. He bespoke makes the awards. So they're pretty cool. They're a nice objet d'art to have anyway. And each year we do something slightly different.
I think what I liked about it as well is like the typical award ceremonies, it's all like businesses.
Yes.
So like best business award, but you had like really individual ones as well, which just created a little bit more like authenticity.
We want to get so everybody can win something.
Yeah.
So, the future CEO, so it could be somebody that's rising within a business. And obviously we've got the best business in business, and we've got perfect professionals and so on and so forth.
But there's a really good mix of different type of awards, isn't there?
I got shouted down by the guys because I wanted to be completely irreverent. And I wanted to have, everything was like best bald-headed business person, best shoes in business.
Best shoes in business.
Like Jen. Like I wanted to be really ridiculous and a proper like fingers up at all the other awards.
Yeah.
But they said, no, let's make it legit. So we have made it legit. Like they're worth winning.
But like, I think what's really nice about that is like, you're best like marketer, didn't you? Yes. You're best CEO. Like, you actually look into those people. So like I was taken as a guest and I was like, right, I want to look at all of these people. Yeah. If it was just a range of businesses, sometimes you just think, oh, which one looks the best? You pick that one, off you go, they paid for it sort of thing. But like you actually look into these sort of people and you get to know the business.
We've lost a few pals because they sort of nominated themselves and they didn't make it to the shortlist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they're like, well, yeah, but we can't, we're not just going to let our friends into this because they're our friends. You've got to be good.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of people down in Plymouth that literally haven't spoken to me since because they didn't get shortlisted.
So can you nominate yourself, or is it meant to be somebody nominating you?
You can nominate yourself, or someone can nominate you. It's totally open. But we will credit check everybody. We'll secret shop a few. We'll take references. So we'll call referees and say, are they legit? It was Bright Solicitors won this year, and I rang up a chat and said, if Bright's offer the law on that, I will use them. That's a strong endorsement. And then we're checking through all of their case studies and seeing that if they are legit and they're solvent and it's working, and that's how it goes. But then the other thing for mine is to make sure that the evening is a party. So the first year we had singing waiters do a takeover halfway through.
That's cool.
And then this year we had Big Joe Hammond brought shots out for everyone. So every table had a table of shots. And we had, confetti cannons and everything. So it's just a massive party, but we've already got big plans in place for this year and we're close enough for Christmas so that for businesses that really want to have a bit of fun, it can be a Christmas party. We want to set it up that way and we front load your evening. So we were lucky. We were unlucky and lucky this year. The one thing we weren't insured for was snow.
Weather, I remember.
Oh, mate.
Absolute bugger.
I remember.
Yes. So we just about got away, but we lost our fire breather. So the plan was you were going to have a fire breather as you came in, Greeters Guild. So my brother dressed as Greeters Guild. Then we had all of the drag queens just sort of cajoling everyone and messing them about. We had the living wall with the hands coming through. So there was so much front loading that you're like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then a really nice meal so that your food's nice. And then we whizzed through the awards in 45 minutes and then a massive disco straight after. So it's just, you're having this sensorial overload of how much fun is this?
Why should people come to it then? And then I'll give you your answer, then I'll give my answer because I actually went and I had a really good time. There's a few things which I can say, but why?
I've sort of alluded to the fact that it's not like anything else. And fun is the underpinning thing. Now and then in our pursuit of happiness, it pays to pause and be happy. That's Guillaume Appignat. It's one of my favourite quotes. And that is one of the occasions where in your pursuit of happiness, stop, be happy. It's all there for you.
Yeah.
We're going to have a whale of a time. And that's sort of what it is.
Yeah.
So that's
I'll tell you why I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It might be a bit difficult to explain this, but it was set up in such a way where you really got to know like every individual.
Yeah.
So there were so many people that I met there that I came back from, or like I knew of. You know, you'd put them on social media, you'd spoken about them a lot, you know, you introduced them in a way which was really personable.
Yes.
That I was quite confident to go up to, I was drunk obviously,
but
I was quite confident to go up to them and be like, oh, hey, I'm blah, 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 this is me, and actually have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of people through that.
Yeah.
But usually, when awards are like so formal and like corporate and stuff, you just don't get that vibe, I don't think.
Yeah, but I think the thing for mine is, again, comes back to this underpinning, like it's all going to end, so you may as well have fun while you're here. And I lean very hard into people that have these platitudes of trying to be like really stiff and, well, it's very important. No, it's not. It's just not important. Stop it.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like, that stuffiness. Everything, you know, the sporting dinners I'm doing, I don't like the stuffiness. I want to disrupt and have a bit of fun and be genuine and raw. And that for me is really important, and it's becoming more important as I'm living my life.
So that's the naughty.
I'm just laughing how Jevon was actually meant to come to work the next day and didn't
binned
make
it
in, did he? Binned it right off after the naughty.
I struggled with that one.
There's a few vids that we saw.
It's a bit of hedonic pleasure, isn't it? It's hedonism. You're just going out there and you're just satisfying your ultimate your carnal desires just to get loose and have a crack.
It's a good Guinness at Winslade as well.
Yeah.
They afford a good Guinness.
Yeah.
Talk to us about building brands. You've got your bottle there.
Well, building brands was a great one for me. So obviously a bawdy crowd of rugby people, or sporting people, I'm dead happy. And Dave asked me to come and host his marketing conference down in Plymouth, and I went along and introduced lots of people. And you know, one of the one that abides by me is Champagne John Payne. He was speaking about SEO. I have no idea about SEO. He did a 45-minute presentation on SEO, and I was like on tenterhooks. I was fascinated, and he communicated it in ways like, this is amazing. And we had lots. Joyanne Boyce was speaking about diversity in the workplace, and again, massive educational piece for me. And I'm coming away like just sponging the knowledge off people, going, that was great. And Dave, he paid me £100 to go and host it. It's well below my rate. I'm very expensive. And I said to Dave, I can help you with this. Like, let me help you with this. I've got this history in the Chiefs putting the commercials onto things. I'd like to put the commercials into this.
Was your intention to help him just out of a
to grow
friendly
it?
nature? Or
well, no, I had a vested interest. I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely wanted to be a part of it because it's something I hadn't done, and I felt I could be good at it. And the other thing was that makes building brands special is Dave is in-house marketing with Nash Solicitors. I've got my own little firm, but I'm not really looking to sell you anything. So legitimate, it's two people putting on a marketing conference, but we're not trying to sell you anything, which makes it cool. A lot of the people that put on conferences, it's like because they want you to buy their thing. Well, we're just putting on our conference and we want you to come along and enjoy it. And in doing that, it sort of has worked and grown. And you know, we put our morning, afternoon headline sponsors, we charge people to display. But if you've got 350 marketing professionals, there's a value there. And that's what we've established. And it's growing nicely. We've got a good tribe. There's a couple of thousand people on the database emailing. We're pulling in speakers of higher profile every time we go. We expanded into Bristol last year, and John Payne's come in as a 1/3 partner. And when we were looking at Bristol venues, I've said to you already, we went to the Beacon, and I was like, oh wow, imagine if we could get this. And I'm a massive advocate. I love where I live. I don't want to go to Brighton SEO. Everybody goes to Brighton SEO and they go to these big conferences out of town. I'm like, well, why don't we have the big conference here?
Yeah.
Why don't we get the talent here? And the Beacon in Bristol is a venue where we could get a Rory Sutherland or a Simon Sinek or a Stephen Bartlett on the headline, and we'd have 2,000 people and we can have a mega conference. So the ultimate goal is to try and get to a position where we're bringing the top talent, but we're aligning them with the top talent locally. So it elevates our people, but it also elevates the standard of the conference. You know, so you could go and talk about how you've built your pod, and then on the same bill is like Theo Pathetis.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
You know, and that's sort of what we want to do is let's make it happen here. Why not?
Yeah.
But the driver for me is to make it as marketing's great, but obviously my main thing is sales, is to make sure that there's transaction taking place as well.
Mm-hmm.
That people are coming to the event and yes, they're being improved with the knowledge they're receiving, but they're also going, actually, I really need a bit of help with my website or my SEO or my pay-per-click or whatever it may be. Here's someone that can help me with that. So the transactions taking place. So that it's not just a celebratory, aren't we all good at marketing?
Yeah.
It's business is being done.
Yeah. I think that's, you've been to 2, haven't you? And you've got loads out of them. You and Tom sort of raved about them.
We love it.
Yeah.
I think, like you say, every time I go, you always say how special it is.
Yes.
You always stand up and say how special it is. And one of the things that I really love what you do at the start, because I am one of those people that's a bit nervous when you first get into the room. But my favourite thing that you did, and I think you've done it all of them, is you say, talk to a stranger next to you and just give them a compliment.
Oh, yeah.
And that instantly just makes me...
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm battling because I can't keep doing that.
Can't keep doing that. You're going to have to think of another one.
I need something else to encourage that conversation.
But to have that same... Because it instantly did just relax me. And I think that a lot of people that are in the room are maybe at the same kind of level in their career that I am, that wants to do all these great things and learn everything, but is also still a bit nervous as well, especially in an Exeter.
Why are you nervous?
Oh, just a bit nervous, Chris.
Yeah, but why?
Well, lack of experience, isn't it? If you've never done it before, it's unknown. It's the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then if the thought process is it's unknown, would you not think, well, if I do it, I'll know?
Yeah, which is why I'm there doing it.
Yeah.
But
that's a luxury.
The doing.
Belief.
Yeah, but this is what the world's designed for me.
Yeah.
I'm a middle class white man. Everything is designed for me. So trying to be empathetic and understand, I'm really keen to be humbled and understand.
And understand. Yeah.
So,
I actually think for you, for example, just listening to you today, your rugby career has shaped you into the person that you are, obviously, in so many ways. But just being a team player in a community from a young age has made you think about life so differently, because everybody in your rugby club all thinks the same, and they're all really fun people, and they're all looking at the world the same way that you do, that everybody's just really open and not unconfident. Whereas, like, you know, I've never been part of a team. I've never really played sports. I think like your upbringing really does.
I battle with confidence. Always battle with confidence. But I've just got tools in my armory now to try and overcome the lack of confidence.
Really,
and I think being in a team, and like especially a rugby team, you said it. You know, you're always at each other. Yeah. You know, so you almost lose that fear of getting things wrong, because you'll always have like an honest opinion of assessment.
You know, we've got James Haskell. He has this thing that if you've got a table of 10 people and 9 are laughing and 1's crying, it's called banter. The key is everybody has to get it. Everybody has to share it. And I'm a big advocate. I think it's great. Yeah. But there's a nuanced point where it becomes bullying. Yeah. You're just having fun and you're teasing one another. And if you can do that, it's great. And you form really good bonds. And you have a lot of fun. And I'm always the dingbat that'll dive straight into the middle of it and put himself in a hole. But
yeah,
I always, you know, the imposter syndrome, the lack of confidence. Once I've stood in front of a load of people and spoken on a microphone, I'm straight away to my wife, was that any good? Was that all right? And I'm also massively critical. God, I got that wrong. I got that wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not coming away going, yeah, that was cool. What a winner. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I quite like the fact that I've got this niche in sort of Exeter and the surrounding regions where I do all right. Like, people will sort of go, oh, that's Chris Bentley. And I joke, it's like Z-list to an extent. Like, if I walk around Tesco, someone might stop me and ask about the rugby. And it's lovely. It's really nice. I signed an autograph at Chiefs a couple of weeks. This bloke had a photo of me from 10 years ago. I was like, I'll sign that. I was happier than he was. Yeah. It was amazing. But it's always there. It's just sort of going through and going, oh, yeah.
I think maybe like what you've done quite nicely is, to sum it up, is like you the feeling's always there of like nerves and a bit of like uncertainty, but you think about your feelings.
Yes.
So a lot of people will just embrace the feelings, but you're actually thinking why you're feeling those sort of things, and you can learn upon it, can't you?
Well, there's a pal of mine who's down in a couple of days, Sam Carrington from the Smirk Experience, and when I finished playing rugby, the Rugby Players Association took us to the Brecon Beacons for a couple of days, the transition weekend, where you move from being a rugby player into something else. And Sam stood up and spoke, and he gave me the compliments. So it was his thing. He got us all to compliment each other. Like, I'm having that. That's great. And he explained how it affects sort of your psyche on a different level. And the other one for me was nerves. Get very nervous before I do events. I did Brixton Rugby Club's 150th a couple of weeks ago with Martin Johnson as the guest.
Oh gosh,
and I was petrified. He was one of my heroes as a kid. And I was box breathing before, like 6 seconds in, 6 second hold, 6 second out, 6 second hold, just to try and get my parasympathetic, like just chill out. But Sam also gave me the reframe that if you're nervous, that's brilliant. That's your adrenal gland getting you ready to fight or flight. And you want to embrace that. If you're not nervous, then you should be nervous.
Yeah.
And so you get these reframes. And so now when I get nervous, I'm like, that's a good thing. And when I'm self-critical, I'm like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And again, you've just got to go through that.
And you've been trained to think about your feelings and your thoughts.
Yes.
Not a lot of people have that mindset to actually think about their feelings and their thoughts. Do
they?
Yeah. So that is.
And but then it can get frightening and it can give you a problem. Whereas
you think too much.
But again, it's this nuanced point.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really comfortable with.
How I know. The question is like,
is that a tattoo on your elbow?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, do you like that one?
Oh, I like that.
Little son. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is actually for my wife, I will say.
Oh, stop it. Mate, I'll get my first tattoo in a few weeks' time. Well, I'm trying to get there. I wanted to have it on my bum, but...
what are you going to get?
As a rugby player, I'm surprised you haven't already got one.
So my mate Sarah Cox, the referee, and I've always called her the Dame since she got her MBE. So I'm having Dame Sarah Cox MBE, and now she's got her MSc. I'm not going to have Dame Sarah Cox MBE, MSc on my... I was going to have it on my bum, and I think it's NR in Exeter. They came back and said, we don't do intimate tattoos. I was like, all right, well, can you do it on my lower back? So I'm having a tramp stamp on my lower back.
No, oh my God.
And then my wife...
clipping that one up.
My wife has said, if I'm having a tattoo of one woman on my back, I have to have her.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I'm having Faye on my hip.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Can you say what you lost in the bet?
Do you know, I honestly can't remember what it was.
You can't remember.
I genuinely can't even remember, but I just said,
just game of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, but again,
like
I'm just at this age now where it's just like silly. So
whatever.
do something daft.
You've got a few silly ones, haven't you?
Have I?
You've got one silly one.
Yeah, I got a little. Yeah.
What's that?
I got a little French cockerel on the side of my leg when I had my stag do in France. Because I love France as well, like Biarritz and stuff. So I got a little cockerel on the leg. But you don't see that too often, so I forget
rugby,
about that.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, that was for rugby. Yeah, Rugby World Cup final.
Yeah, it was just silly things. You want to have a few things you regret.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was going to say is how intentional are you with all of this? Because it seems like you're actually very intentional with this. You know, you're big on like self-learning.
I'm massive on
big reader.
A big thing for me is self-learning. I really enjoy reading. I've got too many books at the Mo, and I actually gave myself the freedom to give up on a few books recently.
Yeah,
because they were crap reads or they were difficult reads. I was reading The Precipice about existential threat to humanity, and I was like 180 pages in. I was like, oh God, this is
that's intense.
Yeah.
Where did this come from though? Was that like your philosophy degree?
Probably the degree, just because you read quite a bit, and I'm addicted to my phone, so I need to get away from my phone. And I am addicted to my phone. It's horrible, and I've logged off Twitter, I've logged off Instagram. Taking all the apps off my phone. My wife has my logins for Instagram and Twitter, so if I need to use that, because I've got a decent following, so she will log me and I can use them and I come off. Like,
that is mental. You're that bad.
I am an addict. I will make doom scroll forever.
Yeah. Is that your personality? Are you like I'm
an all-in kind of person.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a legion of behavioural psychologists in Silicon Valley that are creating things to addict you.
Yeah.
And you can't defeat them. I was on level 9,000 on Royal Match. What
thought you were going to say Candy
Crush.
No.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
What the fuck am I doing on level 9,000 of Royal Match? My kids are growing up. My wife's there, and I'm trying to. And the thing is, it's an algorithm that's designed so it lets you either give it money or time. So you don't win because of skill. And I was like, I've got to get rid of that. So I took it off my phone, and I'm getting my hygiene better, so my phone stays downstairs when I go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm reading books. If you get a good book, you'll see it off in 3 or 4 days, and you will.
Yeah.
And that's so much better, and I'm more present than if I'm just doom scrolling. I'm not there.
Yeah.
And I'm also getting stuff, and I'm like, because it gives me conversation.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking with Faye about what I'm learning at the moment, and I'm loving it.
But there's like that's really like intentional learning, isn't it? And like progression. We talk about all these like things and theories, and you know, thinking about your feelings and stuff. You wouldn't know any of this unless you were very intentional with learning.
I think it's a journey of it's like regression, because you sort of do stuff and then you realize why you do the stuff.
Why you're doing it?
Yeah. I think that's probably the way to do it. That's a big thing. Like salesman, I didn't realize I was a salesman, and then I did some. I became aware of Sandler training, and I pretty much am a Sandler salesman without knowing Sandler's techniques. So I read How You Can't Teach Your Kids to Ride a Bike at a seminar, which is a Sandler book, and I was reading it's like, that's how I sell. So I didn't even realise, and a lot of the way I think, people have already, there's so much more intelligent thought that people have explained that I get. I was like, yeah, that's why I think like that way.
Yeah.
Get it? That makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. What's like the end goal with this stuff that you're doing at the moment? We could break it down into like, the Notty Awards. Is there an end goal of that? Where do you want it to get to?
I think the Notties, we want to grow. So we want to have more people in the room, and ultimately make it into a huge event, and possibly look about doing a version a bit further north.
Mm-hmm.
But if it keeps going like it's going, I'm really happy to keep it here. So that's where we're at with the Notties, just have fun with it, keep it growing. The challenge is to keep it fresh. Absolutely can't get complacent with anything. So we want people to go really excited to see what the Bentleys are going to do this time.
Yeah.
And we've already got some good ideas for this year that will be, again, moving on from what we've done. Notworking Networking is just to keep doing what we're doing, Bristol, Plymouth, Exeter. The key proponent of Notworking Networking is we need a sponsor. So somebody sponsors the event, then we do the event. But I'm thinking about just putting a timeline of events in and saying this is what we're doing. And then if sponsors come, great. If not, so be it. We should just I want to keep it churning because I quite like networking. Building brands is just to grow, keep growing, get more attendance. Moving to Sandy Park was a big one for us because we were capped at the university at Sandy Park. We're not, so we can get more people in. I think it's spreading the gospel of that. Speaking events, just get more of them. I enjoy talking, as you've noticed today. And I like contrarians. I like people to challenge me, and I like to, because I'm sort of quite secure in where I'm at. But being a philosophy graduate, I'm happy to change my mind. I don't. The most dangerous person in the world is a man who thinks he's right. So I don't ever want to think I'm right. I'd like people to challenge my thoughts. So I'm fluid in my conceptions, not set like a stone of principle. Yeah, that's about it.
Again, that's such a luxury belief, isn't it? Because a lot of people say that, but actually not be that.
Yeah,
that's a really hard thing to act upon as well.
Yeah, but I had our latest 2 locks and a cocks. The guys have a right go at me, and I'm like challenging my thought and going through it and going, yeah, well, I want to have that, and also it's a luxury if you can have a disagreement with somebody who you care about, and then go away and ruminate and go, yeah, you were right there. And
I don't think there's enough of that at the moment, is there? Really?
No. But that's why I come off social media, because I was arguing with Twitter about rubbish with random people.
With robots, you're arguing with bots.
Quite possibly, but one of the problems is people getting stuck in dogmatic thought. This is how it is, and what you've got to do is just have a little bit more fluidity in your thinking, and then everybody gets on a bit better. Which ultimately is nice.
Yeah, you're all about just everybody having a good time, aren't you?
Pretty much, yeah. But again, like you both went, oh, you're gonna die. Your life is going to end. So I had to do some dialing for a client last month, like cold calling, and it was horrible when I started, and I was really crap picking up the phone and ringing a stranger, and I was like, ugh. And then there's this. He's the world's weirdest sales trainer. He's on Instagram. He's on LinkedIn, and he's an Italian.
I see.
He's brilliant.
Right,
he's
so
brilliant.
I consume his stuff.
Yeah, likewise.
And I'll watch his videos. Like, it doesn't matter.
He doesn't care about anything.
But this is the point.
Great.
It doesn't matter. So pick up the phone and speak to a stranger, and actually be nice to them. And I looked through. It was like a 1,000-strong leads list. Well, I shouldn't really share this. I'm meant to be Chris Bentley. I'm not meant to be a cold caller. But my first 200-300 calls were terrible. Didn't do well. By the end, I was absolutely killing it. And my conversion rate, I'd put myself up against anybody. I was getting loads of really good details, really good conversions, because I was just ringing up having a crack. And I wasn't going, I'll tell you, this is a cold call where you throw the phone out the window. Yeah. I wasn't permission-based. I was just ringing up saying, look, this is where I'm at. What do you think? And talking with humans, most people are quite nice. So just try and facilitate that niceness and see how you get on them. And if you lose, if someone, because some people are petrified, they're on the phone like, get away, and they hang up. Yeah. All right, no worries. I don't want you to have a bad time of it. You've obviously got some issue somewhere else, and you're verbalising it with me, so I'll leave you alone. Yeah, done.
Just complete lack of fear of loss, I suppose, isn't it? But
when you realise it's all going to end.
Yeah.
You know, my dad has a thought experiment. Shut your eyes, put your fingers in your ears and just sit there. Well, there's nothing.
Yeah.
That's where you're going. So you may
What was quite interesting actually when I asked that question, what's the end goal and everything, it's a lot of people like skip ahead. I know I would and say like what the end goal is. And they'll say like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want it to be at this level.
Yep.
And there's like a bit of an end goal. But yours was a little bit more, sounded like, you know, you're very happy at the moment with how everything's going. If you could do more of that, you'd be even happier.
So Exeter Chiefs won the Premiership, and I went and saw Rob Hunter, the forwards coach. I was like, what are you up to? And he's like, oh, well, we've got to start planning for next year now. And it's like, oh, God. Like, so many people. Schopenhauer was a compatriot of Nietzsche. So Nietzsche's one, the ultimate nihilist. And Schopenhauer, life is essentially suffering or boredom. You're in a state of sufferance because you're trying to achieve a state, or you've achieved the state, so you're bored. And what I'm trying to paraphrase is ultimately you have to enjoy the process. Now, some people will, I've already alluded to, some people go, I'm going to sign off the next 5 years of my life. I'm going to go and work in the city. I'm going to do 18-hour days. I'm going to earn a load of money, and it's going to facilitate my lifestyle after that. God bless them. Or you might move into a house that's a fixer-upper, and you go and live in a caravan for 8 months while the house gets fixed so we can move into our ideal house. That's great. I'm on the flip going, well, when we were looking for our house, I was like, I want to move into a house that we can work on, but we can move straight into. Because I don't want to be 8 months of my life in a caravan having hardship and then moving into the house. And I might have a prostate cancer and be dead within a week of moving in. I want to have enjoyment, a level of satisfaction pretty much all the time. And I'm trying to facilitate that in my life.
It certainly sounds like it, just from the answer you gave, really.
Yeah. And I think it's enjoying the process. The goals are important, and if you want to go anywhere, you have to have a target, you have to have a goal, you have to have a North Star. And it's something that, if I'm honest, I'm probably lacking a little bit of that. I'm quite happy. You know, I'm not the level of the dude in The Big Lebowski. Have you seen The Big Lebowski?
I have, but such a long time.
Mate, the dude's in his dressing gown, just chilling out, being the dude. Like, I don't want to be the dude, but on the flip, I don't want to be the corporate suited.
Yeah.
I'm sacrificing everything to be in that position. You know, I'm not seeing my family. I hate my partner. I'm just, and that's great for the people that do that. And if that's legitimately who they are, then God bless them. And I'd love to have some time with them and have the conversation. But I think the authentic me is sort of just chugging along, having a nice time. You know, people say, "How are you doing?" Chugging on. I'm sort of chugging on, but every day there's my wife and I tell each other we love each other, and we genuinely mean it. We do love each other, and we're really enjoying our experience. And she's so happy that her mum is living with us, and I'm excited to move my parents in. We've had some pretty tough news with my mum recently, and I know that her experience is going to be diminishing. So I want to have that time with my parents because they're important people in the movie of my life. They're important characters.
Yeah. Are you more happier now, sort of, than you were when you were playing rugby?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Rugby was I was younger and dumber. You were always living 2 years at a time. And I wasn't secure in who I was then as I am now. I'm much more authentically living my life as me. One of the problems with rugby was I mentioned earlier that the framework I had, and my old man was a big driving factor, and there was a lot of it I was doing perhaps because it was the pathway that my family had sort of set for me to go along. I wanted to be a rugby player. I love rugby. But ultimately I was doing things to sort of impress other people, not doing things because I wanted to do them. And now I'm authentically doing what I want to do. And I got strong main character energy in my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you had to conform an awful lot, sort of,
with
rugby. You've
to
got
an extent,
yeah. But now it's shackles off. You feel, well, you're an entrepreneur. This is all your own stuff. You've got that freedom.
I don't think I am an entrepreneur. I think I say to my wife, I'm like the sparkly light on the front of the anglerfish. Because I'm out front being lively and exciting people. She's at the back doing she's at the back doing a hell of a lot of the delivery. But we make I yang, her yin. We absolutely fit together. And at the moment we're 10 years into a relationship. It's brill. And we have that emotional honesty to ensure we keep in tune.
So where would you say, like, I always have this like bit of a theory with like business and like being an entrepreneur, that you fit into like one of two brackets. you're really intentional and you think, right, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a business person, and then everything is really intentional towards like coming to that goal. Or you'll naturally just have a lot of those skills, you're very like businessy, you do the things you love, and you're sort of an entrepreneur at the end of it.
Yeah. I'm definitely the second one.
You're definitely the second one, aren't you? I feel like you're the second one. Yeah.
I've no real, even now, I've no real conception. I can't really tell you what I do.
Yeah. I did ask me, got a wishy-washy answer and stuff.
But this is the point. But I'm now, and this is one of the things I've had to do a lot recently is just stop, stand back and go, right, look at what you've achieved in the last few months, Chris. Building brands, we're getting there. If anybody wants to sponsor the Plymouth event, let me know.
Yeah, there we go.
But we're building brands is moving along nicely. Haskell, we've got this dinner away at Sandy Park. Notties, like 11 of the awards are already sponsored, and the awards until November. I've got a sequence of events through the next months where I'm standing up and speaking. So everything's sort of chugging on. It's all happening.
But it's all falling into place because I feel like you love it.
Yeah.
You know, you love it and you're really enjoying it, and people know that, people recognise it.
But it's authentic, yeah.
Yeah, and you get better at it with the things you love, don't you?
Precisely, yeah. If you do it, well, it's Confucius wisdom, you find a job you love, you never work a day. And one of the things for me is I didn't want to have the grind too often. I had the grind last month, I turned some money, and I was doing some dialing, but then I made it actually something that I was looking forward to doing and taking enjoyment from getting the successes rather than taking misery from getting the losses.
Yeah.
Because it's treating the imposters the same way, but it was good fun. And that's, but again, it's pleasure and purpose. Just trying to.
You've got a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good and the bad.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But we're grafting. There's still a fair bit of graft to be had.
Yeah.
My car's got a fair few miles on the clock. I could do with a newer one. And the house is cold, and there's bits and bobs we could always do to improve it. But ultimately, I'm feeling love every day, and I'm relatively motivated to do what I'm doing. And it's most of the time there's contentment, which is the height of wealth.
You really seem like not that you take happiness in the small things because they're not small, but the things that actually matter. That's what I'm getting from you.
I think they matter. They might not matter to other people. I think that's the point. Is it's to thine own self be true. I'm at that point where I'm pretty much legit where I'm at. And I think the thing for me is that there's a lot of people that go out making a living just extolling, oh, this is the way it should be, and I don't think I should do that, but I do want to tell people I'm in a really good place. I'm really happy.
Do people know the like real Chris Bentley then?
Well, I think if they watch this podcast,
well, I think they will now. Yeah, and I definitely didn't to start off with, but like,
Well, no, I project the Captain Caveman that's like pouring beers in his face,
rugby guy, and all that sort of stuff. And I think you have to wear different hats for different events and things, don't you? And it's very hard to like be yourself. Well, it is hard to be yourself, actually. That is quite a fair statement, just for anybody. But yeah, I don't think many people know this side of you. Do you think they do?
No, definitely not.
No.
I think they probably see me as a big bawdy former rugby player like Ruggo. Which is what I was.
Yeah.
I was Frank the Tank. Well, mate, I alluded Rob Kitson wrote the book X-Men. And he said, look, your chapter's a bit crazy. I was like, mate, can you just put at the beginning, I've got an honours degree from Redbrook University. So we realised like I'm not just a complete caveman. But through my 20s, I was an absolute space cadet. And I could have been a better rugby player if I wasn't as committed to the socials as I was to the rugby. I was just blessed that I tried really hard and I was big.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to hear that you've like signed off on social media, that sort of thing, because a big part of your role is actually like working on your personal brand.
Yes.
Isn't it?
But we've got the girls from Unscripted are helping
they
push that.
Do that with you, do they? Yeah.
Because I'm addicted.
Yeah.
And I will, I'll be looking at dancing cockerels. There's them women that hold the roosters and their heads stay the same.
Oh, that is good stuff, isn't there? That is good
But
stuff.
mate, you're looking at stuff like that and you're like, what benefit is that to my future life? Like, how is that helping me?
But like, we started off, people know like the real Chris Bentley.
Yeah.
And then it's a bit like Keith Lemon, isn't it? He's got this big persona of Keith Lemon, but he's not actually Keith Lemon.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. Like, how do you put yourself out there in a real, like, authentic fashion where you've got
I enjoy being stupid.
Yeah.
But you can't be stupid all the time.
No, yeah.
So I am. So there's Chris Bentley who you're talking to now, and then there's Bentos.
Yeah.
And Bentos is obviously like,
is that it?
I would say, you put on the war paint.
Yeah.
You can't be yourself when you stand in front of a load of people and speak. You've got to amplify and be a bit bigger. When I'm hosting Building Brands, I'm being Bentos, I'm being lively and brash, and I'm giving energy. Yeah. And then the day after, I'm really like isolated and on my own because I've had to amplify.
Well, yeah, social batteries drained. Oh,
completely. You can't amplify like that all the time. But this is why I'm really happy with it, because I hosted the evening with Martin Johnson. Martin Johnson captained England to the Rugby World Cup, the absolute pinnacle of rugby union. And I was sat with him before the game, and he got his phone out and he showed me the video of the changing room after they'd won the World Cup. And they're all sat there like,
really?
Like it was not what you'd expect it to be. They'd hit the absolute peak.
Yeah.
You could not be any better. But there was just calm contemplation of, we've done that thing. Whereas I'd be like, if I'd have won it, I'd have been like,
bouncing off the walls. Yeah.
Bouncing off the walls. And I look at the guys that have succeeded beyond where I was, and I'm like, well, I contend I've probably had more fun than them. And they've done the thing better than me. And standing and holding a microphone at an event, I quite like doing it. But I look at Ant and Deck, and you see the one of them was, he's functioning alcoholic, crashed his car. And you see these people that get that level of fame, and they don't want to be there really.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like realising these universal truths of just having a little modicum is quite nice.
Yeah.
I write a column in the paper. I've got the podcast that I'm hosting a few bits and bobs. It's quite nice. There's a little frisson where you feel nice and your ego gets a tickle, but you're not totally full of it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be egotistical saying this, but I just sort of feel really
content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
definitely. I get that. I get
at
that
the moment, I want to pause where I'm really in a nice spot and I'm blessed. My parents are both alive. My children are sort of coming of age. I'm happy. It's nice. It's a really nice spot. And ultimately, that's going to change. I'm going to have to deal with I know Dom and I catching my parents. My children are going to grow up, and up to the age of 18, you have 95% of the time with your children.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So that's going to disappear.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and my daughter now is 13. She's most of the time I'm an absolute weapon, and I'm boys only education to 16, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
Why is she in a mood? I have to say, why is this? I don't understand this. Yeah, what have I done wrong? And it's also the end of the day, you're the devil, and in the morning you wake up and it's all forgotten, and you're like, how's that happened? You got to help me here. I don't understand this. Like, why is this? Well, my boy is getting to the point now. He's 10, and this will be the last year we hold hands going to school and have a cuddle and a kiss, like because he's starting to feel himself, and he's starting to become a young man, and I'm like, oh my God, my children.
Yeah.
So there's challenges that are going to come through the next few years.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's life. It's the living experience. You got to live it.
It is.
And I think that's the point. Is that I'm living my life. I think I'm living my life.
So, do you feel successful?
What's success?
What is success to you?
I had my neighbours around, and we were talking about. There's Sahil Bloom's just written his book, The 5 Types of Wealth. I think I'm successful in the fact that I feel quite a lot of love, and I'm relatively content. I think materially, I'm not very successful at all, but I don't put as much emphasis on material success. I'm going to do all right. But this jumper here was given to me by a lad called Dan Pullinger. These trousers were given to me by Thomas Waldron. I got these socks because I do a bit of work with Rocks for Recovery. I bought these from TK Maxx. I'm not, materially, I could be doing a lot better, but I don't really want to. So I feel relatively successful. I've got friends that are materially piss all over me. I was talking about my mates. One of them is pension contributions are more than I earn. But I'd contend that on other scales, it's where you say where success comes from.
So where does it come from for you? What is your definition?
Well, at the moment, being content. I think it's the height of wealth. I've alluded to that. It's a Hellenistic thing. Contentment is the height of wealth, and that's sort of where I'm at, I think, currently. But as I say, our house is cold. I want to make it warmer. Our car's getting old. I need a new car. My children want to go on residentials in a couple of months' time. I've got to pay for that. There's things that need to be done, and they need to take place. So you've got to earn your money, and you can't always be there walking around happy like, oh, what a great life. Sometimes you've got to get in the pit and fight. Mate, if there's microphones, my stomach's been rumbling like nobody's business. I had no breakfast this morning. I don't know if the mic's picking it up. Honestly.
My stomach's been rumbling as well, don't worry.
I went to the gym this morning and I was a bit late. I So I had a protein shake and that's it. And creatine. Creatine is a really good thing to have.
Yes.
Most research supplement, everybody should be taking 5 milligrams a day.
Everyone's smashing that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody should.
Going back to happiness.
Not just muscular performance.
Cognitive, actually.
Yes,
well.
correct.
That, isn't it? Yeah. Going back to like the happiness side of things, and we get a lot of people on here like say, you know, oh, do you feel successful? And how do you define success? And they say happiness. And then you ask them, are you happy? And there's a few like wishy-washy answers and that sort of thing. And a lot of people like define it as a bit of a spectrum. So like how happy they can be sort of thing. But it feels like your happiness is real, like, it's not so up and down, but it's really leveled.
It's grounded, but I've studied it. I'm not just saying platitudes for the sake of saying platitudes. Like I've sat and read books from like university professors about the science of happiness.
Yeah.
And Vicky Barnes, she's got free happiness, which incidentally is not free happiness. You have to pay £10 to get the book. So it's a bit. But there's a very important page that I took a photo of and sent to my brother. And you can affect neurons that wire together, fire together. You can physically affect your brain chemistry. So depending on where your attention is how you can be. And if your intention is to be happy, you'll probably be happy. But you know, you can be mechanical about it. You know, you when you go to bed at night, you can go, right, what are the 3 things I'm happy with today? And it can be as simple as I'm still alive, I ate some food, and I live in a house. And if you think these positive thoughts, when you go to bed, your brain will start to fire in a way that when you wake up, you'll feel better about it. Now, it can be that mechanical. Excuse me, there's that tummy rumble. And in the morning, you can, you know, Matt Young does his journaling thing. You can write the journals. You can have the intent. Now, sometimes I have to be physical and have that intent, but most of the time it's just sort of ruminations. And I want to program that in because I've got my Memento Mori coin that I look at. You know, Memento Mori is the Romans when they were conquering the world. They'd have somebody with them that would give them their Memento Mori. You're going to die. Don't get too full of yourself, although you're master of the universe and you're doing whatever you like. You're having Caligula like orgies and what have you. Your life's going to end. So you pull yourself back. So if you've got that in check and you go, well, yeah, all right, that's where I want to be. So that's sort of, I feel I've got a nice little formula at the moment. But it's transient, it moves. Life's going to move. I'm going to have challenges. Kids will get told off at school. My parents will fall ill. I might have arguments with the missus or we're living in the big house. Every month there's another challenge. I've got to pay for the oil this month. Oil-fired heating's expensive. Everyone likes a wood burner. It's great, but wood costs money. Fucking hell, you've got to find somewhere to get your wood. So there's always challenges. Yeah. But just amongst it all, just stop and go, well, I'm alive, I'm living, I'm healthy. These are good things. Yeah. And you ruminate on that. And what happens is your brain chemistry affects. I was reading a nice piece in the Sunday Times magazine a few weeks ago. Just how, you know, there's a lot of cognitive behavioural therapy can help people that otherwise would be on medication pathways.
I think if everyone studied philosophy, then
oh yeah, but you can alter your disposition and your demeanour.
Yeah.
Now some people need help. You know, I alluded to when I lost my job as a rugby player, and I defined myself as a rugby player. I was Chris the rugby player. It was bereavement. Like it was bereavement. I went a bit loopy for 5 or 6 months on the back of it. Because I was Chris the rugby player. When I was 16 at school, look out for Chris the rugby player. And then 33 years old, I'm Chris. Yeah. Fuck. You got to figure out who you are. But having been through it and coming out the other end, I'm as I say, I am me, and I'm quite comfortable in my skin, which is a little bit plump. But then I quite like chocolate bars. so I had to.
And that brings you happiness.
But,
so.
but again, it's but then you're going in hedonic pleasure. Hedonism is if I take my pleasure exclusively from Mars bars, well, after a few weeks, 1 Mars bar a day, I'll have to become 2 Mars bars a day, 3 Mars. So you can't have it every day. You have to have that bit where you abstain. Yeah. And then when you do have the Mars bar, you just ruminate on, oh, isn't that nice? Lovely. Well, but slice of toast.
This is the best answer to the question of do you feel successful we've had, really. There's a lot happening.
Oh, thanks, guys. Well, no, but it's for me, it's important. Massive. That's so much more important than having the nice car and committing to that. But again, I look at it and I look at the people that have had more success than me, and I go, well, I wouldn't want to be there. I'm really happy with where I am and the journey I've had.
I think it takes a lot of time for people to realise that what you've just said, or like experience, doesn't it? Did you learn about it and sort of then know about it? or did you experience it?
What? Experience what?
Get into a point where you you don't put as much value on like the more materialistic.
Oh god, yeah. When I was younger,
rather than prioritizing family relationships.
There's moments. There's moments where it lands. So I was in the role with Chiefs, and I'm doing well. And through hook or crook, I used the Lord's Taverners do their event in Plymouth and Exeter.
Yeah.
Successive weekends around Christmas time. And me being an absolute space cadet was like, well, I'm gonna do both. So I went down to Plymouth and I was staying over at Adam Spires, the jeweler, staying at his house. And we went out afterwards. We were at the Clipper at 3 a.m, went back to his house, and he ran out of mixers. So we were drinking Barocca and gin cocktails. And he went to his safe and he pulled out some of the timepieces he had. And at the time I was quite keen on watches. You know, because you progress. I think it's mainly a masculine thing. So I'm speaking from my experience. But you get like a nice Seiko, then you go to a Tag, then you go to a Mega, then you're looking at Patek Philippe, then you're looking at Hublot, and you keep moving up the rank. And Spires, he pulled out this Breitling, like 1972 Seafarer Extreme with a yellow bezel or whatever, and he put it on my wrist, and he was like, "Oh, this is an £80,000 watch." And rather than be like excited, I was like, "I'm never going to satiate this. If timepieces become a thing to me, I'll never satiate that. I'll always be chasing." And it's never going to work. And I went away. I was like, well, I don't want that anymore. That's no longer a symbol for me. Now, there's some people I know, they put massive relevance on the timepiece, and they're looking at other people, and that's a thing. And great for them. But for me, I was like, well, that will always be a longing that I'll never get. So I got myself a Sunto Spartan, which Coxie gave to me.
Nice.
Absolutely love it. Tells me how I've slept and my training and what have you, and it's a big mighty bezel, so I can go toe to toe with the people, yeah. But I'm sort of like, that's my game. I'm no longer going to be worried about that one. That's a marker that a lot of men will have, and that was a penny that dropped. And I don't mean to be condescending with that one. If I am, but
I totally get it.
I don't think girls do timepieces in the same way. Girls will probably have jewelry. Girls would do jewelry, I would imagine.
Rings.
So that wouldn't be too blue and pink separation.
But it's so hard to think like that. Like you have to be, again, really intentional to think like that, or go through the experience.
But yeah, it was just a moment where it just dropped on me. I was like, right, if I'm striving for the things, I'll always be striving.
Yeah.
So just stop and go, actually, sometime now and then in the pursuit of happiness, it pays to pause and be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these themes, these underlying themes, keep coming back, and I can abide by them and align to them. I'm like, yeah, that works. Cool with that. And it's the wisdom of others, but I quite like the wisdom of others, because I don't think of myself as a very wise human, but I'm picking bits from other people and going, that works for me, that works for me, that works for me. I like it. Yeah. And you got Chris Froome, a mega high achiever. I'd love to know where he's at, if he's satisfied, because a lot of these people
story recently as well with them, that's for sure.
Well, the cyclists always are, though.
Yeah, they are. There's a lot of
and then the other one, to be really morbid about it, you look at Chris Hoy. I mean, I got quite emotional watching him take the match ball out for the Scotland game on Saturday, because he knows that's probably the last time he's going to be able to do that. Well, that makes that very poignant, and it's a lovely thought experiment. But if you knew you were going to die in 5 years, what would you do? If you knew you were going to do it in 5 years, 5 days, 5 hours, what would be important to you, and what is important changes. It's very much a situational ethic. Yeah, which was another big thing I like, situational ethics.
I'm running out of thinking space up here now. Chris, let's finish it off.
Yeah, sorry, I'll talk all day.
Let's finish it there. That was great. Yeah, literally, I'm running out of thinking space. There's a lot going on around my head now.
You are a very wise man,
Chris. I don't think I am. No, I think I've taken the wisdom of others.
You've given it a lot.
Well,
to us,
either
so
way,
we'll
that's still wisdom, isn't
it?
That's still wisdom. But yeah, I didn't expect to come on here and have these sort of conversations, and it has actually been really good fun.
It's been great to get to know the real Chris.
At the start was great, but like these conversations, like these real thinking conversations,
Muhammad
are
Ali,
difficult.
If you meet a man at 50 that's the same as he was 30, he's wasted 20 years of his life. So
all right, stop showing off now. Come on.
I like the quotes, and I like the quotes from people that have achieved.
Yeah,
and if you can take that wisdom and just keep evolving. One of the things for me is keep evolving.
Yeah.
And I'm not nice. I'm a dickhead.
And we'll leave it there.
Yeah. I'm a dick. Yeah. Put it on the clips. This man's a dick.